All right, guys, we're finally on to it. Here we go. So it is time to watch the part 2 of the mysterious T video here. Trisha Paytas, This Is Not Okay. The Dark Side of Trisha Paytas, episode 1, part 2. Oh, this is still episode 1. I figured this would have been episode 2. But hey, basically episode 2. Episode 1 was fantastic. I loved it a lot. It was very revealing about Trisha Paytas. It paints her in the correct light. I hope that Mysterious T blows up over this more than she already has. Yeah. So let's get in. Let's get right into the news. I'll see. Now I'm pretending to be stupid. Let's do it. And of course, we just have a little balloons here for just for some goofs and gaffs, you know. Really, just so that I can. Trigger warning. So nice. Please don't send hate to Trisha.
Hey, what's up, you guys? Welcome back to my channel. Today is a part 2 of episode 1 of my Trisha Paytas series. If you have not seen the very first episode of this series, please try to watch it before you get into this video, because there's a lot from that episode that will tie in today's video. So I will link that in the description box down below. I want to thank everyone for all the love on this video and all the new subscribers. I really appreciate it. Before I explain what we're talking about in today's video, if YouTube monetizes today's video, I will be donating a good chunk of the ad revenue to the charity that's listed in the description box down below. I'm just trying to turn a negative into a positive with this video, which is why I feel so strongly about this. And if you want more details about that, it'll be listed in the description box down below. Also, as I stated in my previous video, I will be using all of Trisha's preferred pronouns throughout this entire series, which is she, her, and they, them. Trisha has specifically said to the public they are
I thought that Trisha just didn't give a shit at one point.
fine with all pronouns, including he, him. And if you're interested in where they said that, I will link the video and the timestamp in the description box down below. So in my last video, I think a majority of you agree that there is something that just isn't right with the stories that Trisha has been telling in relation to their school and their teachers. Today, we're going to get deeper into that because Trisha actually named a teacher from their school and urged their followers to look up an arrest that does not exist anywhere. We will also be talking about
We're already starting. You guys are right. I'm going to be fucking angry. Bro, she constantly references this situation. And after watching part 1, it was incredibly revealing when Mysterious T exposed Trisha for changing fundamental information, like huge information. She apparently wrote a book and talked about how she would overly sexualize herself because she got positive attention from the boys and whatnot. And then that changed to, she never did that. She actually tried to dress incredibly reserved so nobody would give her attention, but they still would, and that's why the teacher harassed her or something. And it's one of those things where I understand repressed memories, and I understand not wanting to talk about your traumas. I totally get that. But there's a difference between saying like, oh, I used to dress sexualized and then a teacher assaulted me, than saying I used to dress, and changing the entire narrative. It's not your fault if you dress sexualized and somebody assaults you, ever, especially a child.
the copyright claim that Trisha put on my first video, because the specific timestamps that Trisha claimed are very interesting in relation to the discrepancies that we talked about in the first video. We will also be discussing some other lies that Trisha has told the public on other serious topics, because I think it's really important to show you guys that Trisha has no limits to the lies that they are telling the public. If they can lie about all these important things that most people wouldn't lie about, then they can also lie about essay experiences with their teachers. This is another long video, but please try to watch it all the way through and look through all the evidence before jumping to any conclusions in the comments below. I do want to make one thing crystal clear. I believe Trisha has trauma, and I believe they went through something horrible when they were only 17 years old. And
it's very interesting. Yeah, no, it's very interesting because Mysterious T, I mean, like, I'm referencing her other video when I do this commentary, but the one thing that really stuck out to me is Trisha talks about everything. She seems to talk about every bit of things that she claims are traumas, and I'm not saying she doesn't have trauma, but it's hard to, you know, really get to like an actual area. The reason I bring that up for context is because she doesn't talk about this interaction very much that she had when she was 17 and her mom's ex-boyfriend or ex-husband was an adult, of course, where he would go into her room and like sit down with her naked, and like it gets to some weird stuff. And so I wouldn't doubt that she doesn't actually talk about the things that are truly traumatic to her.
They didn't have anyone to turn to because it was happening in their own home. There's also a traumatizing experience that Trisha also went through in her early adulthood after she moved out to California. That was also stated in her book that I did not talk about in the first episode, but I believe that to be 100% true as well. I believe that book is a very honest version of Trisha, and I really do have empathy for what they went through. It's just the more recent stuff that I can't wrap my head around, and after the first episode of my series, I think most of you do agree. But there's a lot more to get into regarding regarding all that. And just FYI, we do not talk about the teacher till later on in the video, so there are chapters marked at the bottom if you do want to skip around. It's just really important for me to show you the full picture before we get into the allegations against Mr. Riney. So let's get started. As some of you may know, Trisha recently started a podcast that is called My Chemical Imbalance, and on September 1st, Trisha uploaded an episode and said something very interesting. The clip you are getting ready to watch backs up a lot of what we talked about in episode 1. For the past few months, Trisha has been telling everyone that they were never bullied in school, and that the main problem was that they were overly sexualized by teachers and classmates. Well, Trisha actually told the truth recently and talked about being bullied in school. Check it out.
Interesting.
When I was like about 12. Oh no, I was like,
yeah, that was the thing, is that Trisha would talk about how she was bullied in school all the time. That's why she had to move schools 4 times. And then she changed the narrative that she was never bullied in school and that her teachers were actually just like super inappropriate with her or whatever. And now I guess she's back to the bullying aspect again.
13, 14.
Very low.
School play. I bounced around schools a lot. I was doing a school play, and I got picked on all the time for being fat when I was actually quite mid-size. There were really fat kids in our class.
Oh, mid-size nowadays is different from back then. It's actually very interesting. You know, I guess the tolerability for obesity, for lack of a better term, is much higher nowadays. Like back in the day, you know, I'm considered less fat than people used to be, just based on just from a relative perspective.
Class and grade that were really slow. They were definitely people who just didn't keep themselves up, and that is the stereotypes of like didn't bathe, didn't shave, wouldn't wash their gym clothes, would be the last person in line. I wasn't that. I mean, I was kind of uncoordinated in gym class, and I always kept myself up. I liked having nice things and stuff like that. So, but still, I was the one that got made fun of for being fat. People would always say Trisha has more rolls than a bakery. I just remember that one, and like a couple other ones just like making fun of me in a swimsuit when I wasn't. You can find pictures of Trisha Paytas High School. I was just not fat. I was not thin. There was thin ass girls.
There's a lot of frustrations with this.
I cheerleaded. I golfed. I was the one that took 2 gym classes a day because I was trying to avoid math. Like, you know, like so I wasn't, you know, but I did.
I couldn't even watch her podcast, honestly. I gave up. It was just more retelling of fucking Ethan's bullshit. That's all it was like a rehashing of frenemies drama.
I felt fat, and people made fun of me all the time for being fat when there was people much fatter than me that they never picked on. That's an interesting claim, though. First of all, it comes off as a little fatphobic, but I'm not even going to get into that because, you know, whatever. Secondly, what's very interesting about this, though, is this claim that she got picked on for being fat while the other fat people who were fatter than her never got picked on. That is an interesting claim to me. How real do we think that is? And the only reason I ask that is like, okay, I'm sure she got picked on, but was it for being fat? Or is it one of those things where, if you notice, people do this all the time, where if you don't like somebody, you'll be ruder to them for the things that they are like the negative about them, right? So people, you might be a fat person, but like people love you. So there's like, oh, Molly, I don't know. Molly's so nice. But if Molly was a bitch, she's not just a bitch. She's a fat bitch. You understand what I'm saying? Nobody's going to call her just a bitch. They're going to bring into every identity that they can to make fun of people after the fact. And so I wonder if she was just kind of an asshole. Not to blame her, but I'm just wondering if she was kind of an asshole. And then people just made fun of her weight at that point because she was being rude. You understand what I'm saying? I still don't grasp it. Like, I really wish I could grasp this part of bully culture, because it's like, because I know the cliche thing my mom would tell me, they're just jealous, you know, all this stuff. And maybe there is some, and ultimately I don't think maybe they're jealous of like my looks or who I am or whatever back then, but maybe they're,
the hell is this?
Because I was fearless, I would wear crazy shit in my hair. You know, maybe they're jealous, maybe, or they just thought it was weird, so they want to pick them. I'm not.
Oh, that makes sense. She was fearless. She wore crazy shit in her hair. She probably dressed very bizarrely, and people like didn't like her or something. It's not justifiable. They're still assholes. I'm just saying. I'm just bringing up the context. What the hell is this?
Sure, but fat has followed me my whole life.
This is the problem with Trisha. They are telling so many lies to the public that they can't keep their lies straight. Trisha's stories will either change each time they lie, or once in a while we will see Trisha from the older YouTube videos, and they will actually be honest with the public. This clip we just watched backs up the book, and it backs up the older YouTube videos. And in my personal opinion, that means Trisha was lying when they went on and on about never being bullied, and they tried to spin it into they were constantly being sexualized sexualized by teachers and classmates.
I
Just
agree.
to see what she said before, to refresh your memory, and to show you some new footage that I didn't show in episode 1, let's take a look at a clip real quick to compare things.
I love when people call me girls. Do you see this? This is how I go out in public. I really don't like attention when I don't want attention. When I go out in public, I don't want attention. I don't want guys to look at my body. I don't want guys to look at my breasts, because no matter what I wear, I am sexualized. I've been sexualized from 6 years old. From 6. From being called out for being a distraction by teachers, to being molested by my neighbors, by people in power, people in authority, because my body has always...
These just scream like just new-aged perspectives. And what I mean by that is power dynamics are a very new-age thing. And I feel like Trisha hears like a new trendy thing, and then she runs with it. And she decides like that's her life. And then she over-identifies with a point. Like she over-identifies with the point. It's like, oh, I don't... Like right now, the whole conversation that we're having is in public is about being sexual, like overly sexualized. And so it feels like, and I'm not saying that she doesn't have trauma, but it's hard to believe Trisha Paytas. And then all of a sudden, like, oh, well, I'm being overly sexualized. Like, well, is that true? Is she being overly sexualized? Or is she overly identifying with being overly sexualized because it's like the modern thing to talk about?
always just developed quick.
And then we also, because she said that she's been sexualized since 6 years old. I don't know how true that is. But we were talking about this earlier in stream about sexualization and how I don't think people quite understand what sexualization is. Sexualization doesn't mean that you find somebody sexy. It doesn't mean that you find somebody sexy. It means that the general societal perspective is that thing would be perceived as sexy. So, like, for instance, if you're a dad and you have your kid, like a 14-year-old girl wearing, like, with her cleavage out, you'd be like, don't do that. That's gross. And it's not because you think she's sexy, it's because you feel she's being sexual. Like, you feel that that's a sexualization. So that's what sexualization means. And I bring that up because what if she's wearing things she shouldn't be at a young age? I don't really know. I'm just speculating. I'm not trying to be, like, invalidating. But considering how irresponsible her mother is, it wouldn't make me doubt that there's something additional going on there.
Quicker. I was sent home from school multiple times for not wearing a bra from the ages of 6 to 8. 6 to 8, you're in freaking kindergarten at 6. Like, what? They don't even make bras for those size girls. And middle school, I was the only girl not allowed to wear a 2-piece when we do our 2 weeks swim class courses.
That's like all new information.
Because of
she
my
never.
boobs. I was told to put on shorts over my swimsuit because you could see pubic hair through my swimsuit at like 11. And I changed for high school.
This is completely against what you originally expressed.
Like a nerd, or people weren't mean to me, but it was constantly that.
So what do you guys think? Does Trisha talking about bully in the present time change your perspective on the situation if you were leaning towards believing what she said over the past
we touched on this. Everything she just said was total bullshit. That everything she just said reminds me of somebody who's trying to ride modern trends and like go around with what Gen Z or whatever is expressing, which there are some legitimate concerns from Gen Z, but she does this all the time. When DID was big, she had DID. When being had like gender dysphoria or being trans was big, she was trans. Then there's a new arc of her being trans now. I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about the past one where she didn't know what the fuck she was talking about. Now, all of a sudden, we're talking about power dynamics. So everything's about power dynamics. She did a whole thing on Keemstar about power dynamics. And then we're talking about, like, people... She seems to be mimicking real concerns from a lot, especially a lot of young women, but mimicking them. Not actually, like, having those issues.
Months. Also, I want to comment on one thing that was said in the clip that we just watched. Do you guys actually believe that Trisha got sent home from school from the ages of 6 to 8 for not wearing a bra? Some of this stuff is just...
Wait, did she say that? Oh my god, did Trisha say that? I didn't even catch that. That's fucking insane. Yeah, of course I believe that. But who would believe that? There's no way. What? Why would that even happen? There's no way that would happen. Because let's say that there's a world like where the teacher's like, your 6-year-old has big tits, she needs to wear a bra. I don't even know if you develop tits at 6. I don't think so. I feel like you would get a bra and then you'd be done with it. I don't understand. Unless she talks specifically about how she was very uncomfortable in bras, you would need that supportive information. That would be very important for her to say as well. Because let's say that it's true that she had boobs and she needed a bra and she got sent home. Well, why wasn't she wearing the bra? She had the money. Her dad made plenty of money. I doubt there's a financial factor, and she could guilt her mom into giving her anything. So she would need the specific additional information of, I didn't like bras because they were uncomfortable at 6, and she's never said that. I guarantee you, after this, she's gonna say that because she watches my content.
common sense. First off, it's very rare for a child at that age to even have a chest. And also, what parent is going to come to school in the middle of the day to pick up their kid and take them home because the school said little 6-year-old Trisha couldn't come back until she put a bra on? You guys, as a parent, I would lose my shit on the school because the first time would be the last time that was said about my kid. Trisha said this happened over a span of 2 years. It's just not a realistic story from so many angles. That's the thing with Trisha. They tell some pretty unbelievable stories that are clear-cut lies. But anyways, I just thought it was interesting that Trisha in the
never caught that. That's incredible. Jesus Christ.
Time actually confirmed that they were bullied in school, even though over the past few months Trisha has been trying to spin a new version of her.
Trisha was bullied in school because she was weird or kind of an asshole. Okay, I have a cousin that I love to death. Okay, we were both fat. She got bullied more than me because she was kind of an asshole. I'm just being honest with you, okay? It's a factor. Like we said before, when somebody's an asshole, they're not just an asshole. They're a fat asshole, or they're a, I don't know, something asshole, you know? Or they're short asshole, or, you know, or they're an Italian asshole. You know what I mean? Like, you'll use whatever identity you can to make it as bad as possible.
Life. So now let's talk about the copyright claim that was put on my first video.
Trisha did the same thing. She put a copyright claim because I don't even remember what she was doing. She does it all. She has actually done it multiple times. She'll put copyright claims in on my videos. I just, like, one time she showed a TikTok in a video and she copyright claimed it later on. You would do this, and she copyright claimed that. I forgot the other ones. There was just like 20 seconds of her talking about something. I can test the claims, but it's ridiculous. And if you shave it out, it's like she's just trying to she's just trying to fuck with people's shit. And it's like, you know, I find it very interesting and telling when there are people who do things wrong and their first response is to try to cover it up instead of hold accountability. The YouTuber Tuv came in here before because he had gotten some wrong information on a video that he made. And he's like, oh, let me talk to you about it. He didn't try to suppress it. He saw me message him and said, hey, let's talk about it. Do that, Trisha. Be more consistent. Do you think that people enjoy it when you lie? Come on. I know you're a fan, Trisha.
So most of you know that Trisha claimed my first video, which is a really shitty thing to do because if I didn't fight the claim, then they get all my ad revenue.
True.
But the interesting thing about this is the specific timestamps that Trisha claimed.
Bro, it's gonna be
and
ridiculous
I believe
shit.
Trisha claimed these clips because they're trying to erase what was said in the past about their teachers. In my mind, if you have nothing to hide and you're being honest in the present time, why are you trying to discredit your book? And why are you trying to erase the fact that you said nothing illegal happened with your teachers? So as you guys can see, there are 3 claims on this video, and the clip.
I actually have to like I have to blow this up for a second. Let's see. Puberty QA, my first book, and trigger warning: being fat with an eating disorder. So those must have been the specific content videos that she used. You can't put content strikes on videos like that. Like, they're fucking internet videos. There's no advertisement aspect there. You don't own videos on YouTube. Well, I guess you do, but you're covered under, you're protected under like whatever law, the commentary law for this. What's interesting though is, you know, Trisha did it specifically to her because Trisha didn't do it to me, and those exact segments would be in my video. And if I release this video and she goes back and DMCA strikes those, I'm gonna be very upset. I'm gonna be very upset with you. Okay, Trisha, I'll fuck you up. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding about that. But am I? No, I'm just kidding. No, but all jokes aside, you understand what I'm saying.
Clips that Trisha picked were so specific.
Yeah.
I had so many clips in the first
That's
episode. True. In fact, if you look at the description of my video,
yeah, it's very
there's
and
a list
transformative
of all the videos.
Yeah, nobody's gonna watch her like 2-hour-long video to watch those. See, that would be your claim. So your only claim that you have is that the video that somebody makes is made in a way that it could replace your video. So like if I did I don't know, if I did like a compilation of Trish videos or something. But you know, she plays like a minute long. Nobody's gonna watch a 2-hour-long video. It was a great video, but just to watch the 40 seconds of a Trisha video.
that I pulled clips from to use in the first episode. I don't think what was chosen was picked randomly because all the clips are found in the beginning, the middle, and the end of the episode. So if you don't know much about YouTube copyright claims, one thing you can do to get your ad revenue back immediately is to edit out the timestamps that were claimed. And the 3 that Trisha chose would completely discredit my video if I chose to erase them. The one at the bottom here, if you watch the first video, is the clip of Trisha talking about the car crash that she had in 2005. But we're going to skip over that one for now because it isn't as important as the other 2. The second one here is about Trisha's book. And this clip is where Trisha said that they were nothing but honest in this book. I'm going to play part of this clip just so you guys can see which clip I'm talking about. And
I would be more like, see, this is one of those things. Trisha of the past was probably much more honest because she didn't feel like she had to reshape her content around new age and social narratives. Because if you look at it, politics is more prevalent in our everyday, especially like last year during the COVID, during like the height of the COVID virus, and with everything going on with George Floyd, politics and political ideologies were very in the forefront. And some of it's good, and a lot of it was a good thing. But it seems like now that that's something that's socially palatable, she wants to be involved in those narratives. Like I said before, the hypersexualization of like young girls and things like of that nature.
If Trisha claims this video, then Trisha, you're taking money from charity, so I would hope you wouldn't do that. But let's just go.
What a girl boss! Wait, is that why she's making this, donating to charities, just so she can tell Trisha that she's taking from charity? That's a fucking alpha move, dude.
Go ahead and do it and see what happens. Here's the clip.
I mean, I am nothing but honest in this book, and when I went to go write this book, I wanted nothing but honest, which is very hard for me.
This entire clip backs up how genuine the book is, and erasing this clip would discredit so much about the first episode because I focus so much on quotes from her book, and Trisha knows that. Now, the next clip I want to look at is the puberty Q&A that Trisha claimed. Do you see the specific timestamp that is selected right here? What's interesting about this clip is that they were even more specific with
Anonymous
the timestamp.
tipped $4.20.
Thank you. Well, thank you for the tip. Thank you so much. There's a couple kisses.
Because in my video, this clip actually starts at 32 minutes and 12 seconds. So there's about 40 seconds of this clip that Trisha cut off. I'm not going to play the clip that Trisha didn't claim just to save time, but if you don't believe me, you're more than welcome to go to the first video and start at 32 minutes and 12 seconds to see the full clip. But my question is, why not claim the whole clip? If this was all random, now I think it's because that specific timestamp that Trisha chose was to erase the fact that Trisha said in the past that nothing illegal happened with their teachers. And here is that clip.
It wasn't until my freshman year of English gym that I had a wrestling coach. He was our gym teacher and English teacher. He was so hot. He was premature gray. He was so freaking hot.
Hold on.
Wrestling coach. He was our gym teacher and English. Until my freshman year of English gym that I had a wrestling coach. He was our gym teacher and English teacher. He was so hot. He was premature gray. He was so freaking hot.
What was his name?
Loved him. And I loved, like, I would always be like, I don't know, like, where do I put the heart? We had heart rate monitors. Like, where do I put the heart? Like, I was like the little me. It's like, again, no teachers ever did anything appropriate with me. Nothing like that. Like, I don't want to even, like.
It's very, no, what she's saying is, like, she was, as a younger girl, she would want attention from the male gym teachers. And I want to be very clear that some people do that, but that doesn't give a teacher the right to do anything, right? That's why we have ages of consent, and we understand that children do weird shit. So as a teacher, it would never be okay to engage with that, which is why I talk about why do you need to change the whole narrative from, like, I would used to dress sexually to I never dressed sexually and I was sexually assaulted. Well, why couldn't you just, if you were being honest, those two things could stay the same. You could dress provocatively and still be assaulted by your teacher because your teacher never has the right to do anything that they would do. Just because you're dressing, what you're wearing fundamentally has nothing to do with, you giving up your consent. But as a kid, you're just additionally, you can't consent. So there's no even situation where it could happen. Do you understand? And this is one of those problems. This is what I'm talking about, is that there's no reason to change the narrative. But I think she felt like she needed to change the narrative to make it more valid because she doesn't have a robust understanding of anything, to be honest with you.
Go there. My biology teacher my sophomore year was like my ultimate.
Maybe she was trying to make herself look like as much of a victim as possible.
It's possible as well, because it's like, oh, well, I wasn't even asking. So the implications there is that if we do go along with this narrative and we believe it, that means that she thinks that what you're wearing is a factor in whether you're getting sexually assaulted, as if so if she actually if the reason why she changed the whole narrative to "I never dress sexualized" is because she thinks that it would be more supportive to her argument, or it'd make her look like more of a victim to have not be asking for it by her thought process, meaning that she actually is contributing to rape culture. Does that make sense? I know that's a very deep woke take, but if you get what I mean, which means that Trisha to some degree would be invalidating of sexual assault survivors, at least in her own internal biases would suggest that. I hope that I was able to demonstrate what I mean when I said that well.
Crush, like I just got so turned on by him, like so much, like I literally like got wet in the panties in class over him. He was so hot.
Just wet panties? Jesus
and then,
Christ.
Like college teachers. I was just like teachers, and I like authority figures, and I like people who had control and who were educated. And
this specific clip here, when I seen it for the first time, I just immediately thought, there's no way they are lying in this clip, because Trisha literally lights up with joy talking about these teachers. And
true, and that's a very honest take to say something that's like a little bit out there. That's not a safe take. So yeah, I tend to believe it as well.
Compare it to the clip that we watched in the first episode when Trish talked about her mom's boyfriend Tiger. Just the tone in Trisha's voice, I felt how hard it was for her to talk about it. I wanted to show you guys the specific timestamps that Trisha claimed, because I just think it shows that Trisha is trying to hide this, and hopefully once we get into talking about Mr. Riney, you will fully understand where I'm coming from. So I know some of you are still having a hard time with questioning Trisha on the things that happen with their teachers. Trust me, I completely understand why. It's hard to question someone that is coming out as a victim. If you want me to be completely honest, I 100% believe Trisha when they talked about the water bottle incident on Frenemies, because I had no reason not to believe her until I realized how much they actually lied and how much the stories didn't line up. Here's the thing with Trisha.
With the water bra thing, she talked about how it was very interesting the way she talked about the water bra thing, because I believe the water bra take was that Trisha was talking about how she was never sexualized in school, and she would dress down as much as possible to not get sexual attention. But then she said she wore a water bra to accentuate her breasts. So it doesn't even maintain logical consistency in her own argument.
Are seriously a pathological liar. They lie about things that are really small, and they lie about things that should never be lied about. Trisha has no limits to the lies that they tell the public. The bigger the lie, the more attention Trisha gets. Trisha actually posted something on her Instagram that I found really interesting, and I want to read it to you guys. The post said, "Emotional abandonment in childhood leads to insatiable hunger for attention in adulthood. It can feel like your need for attention is never satisfied, no matter how much you are actually receiving." Now this post...
Emotional abandonment in childhood leads to insatiable hunger for attention. Interesting, because Trisha is desperate for attention constantly. So that means that she probably has some kind of emotional abandonment, or maybe she's doing it again. She's like, she just is such an attention whore but she saw something that would make her look like a victim, so she had to identify with it. I'm just saying it's possible. Either of those are possible.
Actually, in the last week or so, and it actually describes Trisha so well. In Trisha's childhood, they would lie and make up stories as a shield for bullying and to get attention and acceptance from their classmates. The stories and lies were harmless when Trisha was younger, but the more attention Trisha got, the more Trisha would push boundaries to satisfy the hunger for attention. But Trisha is still not satisfied even today, because Trisha keeps making up stories or lying about serious things, which leads into some of the stuff I want to show you guys in this segment. One thing I want to point out before we get started is shortly after Trisha posted this, they ended up deleting it, which is very interesting to me as well.
That is interesting. That actually is interesting. Because that kind of removes the narrative to me of what I would said, where she's just overly identifying with it just to be an asshole. That actually might be a genuine thing that she was saying. Interesting.
Let's talk about some clear-cut lies from Trisha so that you guys can see that they have no limits or boundaries to the things that they will lie about. I want to show you a clip that will lead into a recent lie that was revealed about Trisha. In a recent podcast episode that was uploaded on August 17th, Trisha was talking about their transgender video and their DID scandal. Check it out.
The first DID video and the transgender video, I was being really vulnerable. And to me, those were two things that are...
Dude, the first trans video, I'm going to guarantee you, she was just lying. She was just lying about it. And I really just believe that she was lying about it, and then she later educated herself better on like trans issues of trans people. So now she's more able to claim that she's trans. That's really how I read that more than anything else, to be absolutely honest with you. I could be wrong about that. Maybe that's just me being an asshole. What I will say, though, is that my take on Trisha Paytas identifying as trans nowadays, I think has more to do with her association with sexualization than it has to do with actually not wanting to be a woman. To me, it screams that she associates being a woman with over-sexualization of your body. And I say that because I think that's what she does with it. She associates being a woman with over-sexualization. And so the fact that she doesn't like to be over-sexualized so much, but it's her job, that she associates not being sexualized with being like a man, if that makes sense. That's my take on it.
Or why would someone want to fake it? That's the worst kind of attention you could have on you, because not only is that a stigma that whoever you date, I was single at the time, whoever you date, some people don't want to date transgender, with female to male.
I don't like that. First of all, you're not a female to male transgender. You know, you would be like some kind of gender fluid, and at the time of this video, that's the way that you would have generally identified as. So what I also don't like is the way that they're framing this. I don't like the way that they're framing this, because this is so ridiculous. I don't like the way that they're framing this because she doesn't live in the same sphere as most trans people. So absolutely, a lot of people will pass up dating somebody that's trans because they're trans. But Trisha doesn't live in that space. First of all, she lives in a very progressive sphere where she wouldn't be invalidated for that. That's just a matter of fact. So, and secondly, she's a passable woman. Realistically, regardless of how you identify, is very wholly irrelevant. She's a passable woman. So she's a passable woman that sometimes likes to dress in a masculine sense. So she's not the same as a female to male trans person who's making a legitimate effort to take hormones and therapy and et cetera and et cetera. So she's just, this is something that I find some people very dishonest with. They'll take a generalized idea and they'll apply it to themselves even when it's not appropriate. Like, there are political YouTubers who sexually harass women, and then they'll say, well, you do know that as a society, they'll apologize, but what they'll really do is say, well, society doesn't teach men the meaning of consent correctly. And it's like, that may be true, and that's a conversation to have. But you, as somebody who roots yourself in feminist ideology, you don't get to make that claim. And this is something that I've noticed from some people that is very dishonest. You can't do that.
And a lot of people don't want to date, especially if they're older and you want a relationship with kids with them, someone who's mentally ill, because it could be passed down to your children. So those are two things that
dude, I just don't like the way that now she's just being transphobic. Like, yes, so I'm a supporter of considering gender dysphoria like a mental disorder solely for the context that it makes sense under the classification, but you'd also consider ADHD a mental disorder, so I would be considered mentally ill as well. The thing is I would like to remove the stigma rather than reclassify it, because there are people who use the label of mental disorder to invalidate transness, which I don't think it does invalidate transness, or it shouldn't. But just like the way that she speaks about it comes off as very transphobic. Oh, people don't want somebody that's mentally... I don't know. It feels very transphobic. And obviously there are genetic factors to everything, but I would argue that Trisha probably doesn't have necessarily have as many genetic identifiers for trans as she would, I would say, environmental, because everything's a mixture between environmental and genetic. So people who are trans, there's a mixture between their experiences making them trans, and I'm not saying like one-off experience. I'm talking about deep-seated experiences, just as well as the genetics, and it's different for everybody. But Trisha doesn't even want to transition. She just wants to sometimes wear different clothing. That's really what it is, and identify differently. So I don't think that you could really argue heavily that there's a very heavy genetic component. It just feels more like she's being transphobic than anything else.
I wouldn't fake. You know, okay, I could fake being a Trump supporter. Give me that attention on 24. I could fake being a Republican or something. You know, I can fake Andy Kaufman bits. Men are better. They're superior than women. I can do all that. And then even that I stopped, obviously, because they just weren't good looks. But like,
because they weren't
to say
good
I'm
looks. So the optics
transgender,
are
like,
bad.
how does that help me at the time date? To say I have multiple personalities inside of me, not fully understanding, like.
You're right, Trisha. A normal
No,
person-
but see, that's the problem. Is if her argument is like, why? How would it support me to weaponize being trans and to, which is what she would be? Is I think that she's doing. How would it help me to do that? Because people hate trans people. Again, the sphere she's in is online. If she's trans, it would actually be a net positive for her content because people would like that more. So she's not even being honest about her, like the way that she's talking about this. It would definitely benefit you to be trans. It would make you seem more woke and included in whatever's going on today. And that's not what I'm not saying that's what trans people do. I'm saying that's what Trisha's doing.
Wouldn't lie about these kind of things or fake these kind of things. And right now, you guys, I'm just going to focus on the mental health aspect of what Trisha specifically said. Now, they specifically said in so many words that they would never fake or lie about their mental health.
And
so
she constantly
if Trisha
does.
truly stands by this statement and faking a mental health diagnosis is off limits to them, then my question is, you guys, then why on earth did Trisha recently get caught for lying about their schizophrenia diagnosis? I'll tell you guys why. And that's because in reality, Trisha has no limits to the lies that they will feed the public. The bigger the lie, the more attention. And I truly believe the mental health lies is a way to excuse their shitty behavior.
Yes, 100%. We talk about that all the time, right? I know, like, there are people with mental issues. That doesn't mean that they are shitty people. We talked about a lot of different reasons why this would be. For people with mental disabilities, I don't think that she has, well, she probably has something. I don't really know.
I show you guys how
But here's the thing, right? So we talked, this is fundamentally, I think, the biggest problem. There's a lot of people with mental disorders all the time, and they may even have some kind of an outburst, right? But after the fact, once they get out of that manic state, they realize, like, oh, I did a bad thing, I should apologize. Trisha has still never genuinely apologized to Ethan, and routinely goes on other podcasts to talk shit about Ethan. So she's not apologetic for her shitty behavior. That means that she just has shitty behavior, and possibly a mental illness on top of that. That's what she's a shitty person with a mental illness. She's not somebody that has a mental illness that's making her behavior happen the way that it is. It's a very, very, very different thing we have to acknowledge. It's just so fundamentally different.
Trisha got caught in this lie.
Like having a oh, fuck me.
Freshman year of English.
I just changed everything. Let's see if we can get back to it.
It isn't just one test that determines.
Because not only is that a stigma that.
Why on earth did Trisha recently get caught for lying about their schizophrenia diagnosis? I'll tell you guys why. And that's because in reality, Trisha has no limits to the lies that they will feed the public. The bigger the lie, the more attention. And I truly believe the mental health lies is a way to excuse their shitty behavior. So before I show you guys how Trisha got caught in this lie, I want to show you what has been specifically said about this diagnosis from Trisha herself. Check it out.
It's really going in on
scares me,
Trisha.
and as I get older, like voices in my head and stuff really scared me. I had a therapist a couple months ago diagnose me with paranoid schizophrenia, which is really scary.
Oh, so she claims she actually had the diagnosis. See, this is why Mysterious Teas is the greatest content creator. Because I had just thought that Trisha said she might have schizophrenia. I didn't know that she said that she actually got diagnosed.
I do have like problems. Like I'm a little like schizo and I'm a little borderline, so I have like problems, but I'm medicated for it.
What kind of medication do you want?
There's this one called Calyptor.
Self-medication?
It's for schizophrenia, so it's like I don't hear voices or see things anymore.
Okay.
Yeah.
So without that, you actually do have schizophrenia?
Yeah. So I got diagnosed.
Wait, that's very interesting. That's very interesting. It's interesting because if she... Okay, so she said she was on some medication she can't pronounce, and I probably can't either. Right? Now, that medication might cross over into a disorder she may actually have now. The thing is she didn't say it was for the disorder that she actually has. She said it was for a disorder that she doesn't actually have. So even if she should be on the medication or not, she's still lying about the schizophrenia diagnosis.
This year with it.
That's a Wolf of Wall Street.
I honestly think it's something that got developed.
Crazy.
Like I really do, because I never heard voices up until like 32.
I also was recently diagnosed twice as schizophrenia.
I don't know how you watched this video. The sound on her video is dog shit. I couldn't watch it. I turned it off.
This year, 2021. I'm on medication for it. Closely monitoring it for the first 6 to 8 weeks, I didn't feel a change other than not myself.
That's so telling to me. Did you hear what she just said? Okay, so if medication takes a while to work, and it can work very slowly. Everybody has different experiences with medication, right? What did she just say there? She said my medication took 6 to 8 weeks to work. If I was going to educate, I'm just going to make just randomly guess. And if I was going to look into, if I was actually going to go and look into anything, they're going to give you a time frame of when the medication will work. So instead of saying it took me about 7 weeks to work, she said it took me 6 to 8 weeks. That sounds like a slip to me. What it sounds like is that she was reading up on the medication, and it said, oh, it would take 6 to 8 weeks. So that's what she decided to tell us it took, rather than being like, yeah, it took about 6 weeks or 7 weeks or 8 weeks. I feel like that's her revealing that she's a bullshitter.
That was scary.
I hate the audio.
So Trisha specifically said they were diagnosed twice. To get a diagnosis on any medical condition, you have to have testing to determine whether or not you have it or don't have it.
True.
Schizophrenia is not something that is easily diagnosed. From what I've seen online, there isn't just one test that determines you have schizophrenia. It's a very time-consuming process, which includes personality test, ink blot test, a full psych evaluation, full medical exam, blood test, just to name a few. So this isn't just something you show up at the doctor for it and they run one test and a week later they tell you have schizophrenia. So the fact that Trisha specifically says they were diagnosed twice in a very short time span makes it pretty unbelievable. And it's unbelievable because this whole thing is a lie. On August 19th, 2021, Trisha went live with Dr. Drew, and Dr. Drew flat out said that Trisha didn't have schizophrenia, and Trisha did not even challenge him when he said it. Check it out.
That's a good point too. I didn't even think about that. She not only did he say you don't have it, but she didn't challenge him. If somebody gave me a diagnosis of something and someone said you don't have it, I'd say you're fucking stupid, leave me alone. But Trisha didn't even stop it. You know what else Trisha didn't do in that podcast? She didn't correct him when he called her a she. Although I guess she does identify as or when he called her a woman. I don't remember what it was. I remember thinking, and I was like, I'm not going to talk about it.
I understand you had a schizophrenia diagnosis at one time. That is not what you have. But I could see how if you were having these kinds of symptoms, somebody might think that.
Well, they put me on medication for schizophrenia. I don't know, like if I have it, but that's what I'm on right now. And it's like this new. It's like I don't know. If
No.
It's like
You're having
I don't know if I have it.
You should know this about borderline syndrome. But borderline, the name borderline was originally invented by psychoanalysts. It was like during the 50s or maybe before that. To what was borderline was they were considering these patients borderline psychotic. And so they were people that were having psychotic symptoms, but were not schizophrenic. You understand? And so, the psychotic symptoms can be helped with the antipsychotics. It's just part of the borderline process.
That's so interesting because I went, because my therapist can't give me medication, so I went to a psychiatrist, and it was just 2 or 3 meetings, and they were like, "Oh, you should be on this medication," and so it's helped with it. But so it's psychosis is part of borderline because I thought it was 2 different like disorders. I thought
How wouldn't you know? They would have diagnosed you. I don't understand.
A psychotic disorder, and a mental disorder.
No, it was originally called borderline psychotic. That was the original term. And because there can be prominent psychotic symptoms, but they don't progress, they don't go anywhere. They're just, part of what, they can come and go, much like you're experiencing it. I'm wondering if maybe all your drug use didn't suppress that.
You would think Trisha would challenge Dr. Drew on this if they had 2 psychiatrists diagnose them with this disorder. But all they said is the doctor put her on the medication and followed that up with, I don't know if I have it. Trish, what do you mean you don't know if you have it? You specifically said that you were diagnosed twice. I wouldn't be surprised if Trisha isn't even on the medication that they claim to be on. I've seen commercials for this medication they claim to take. It's just interesting that it's a very well-known med that's on TV. But anyways.
Well, that's possible. It's actually a problem with the way that we operate. I mean, the fact that we have meds on TV is fucking insane. Your doctor should be willing prescribing medications, not you. But
explained herself on a podcast episode that was uploaded on August 24th, 2021. And this is what Trish had to say. Roll the clip.
So on that note, let's talk about me being misdiagnosed. Okay. I don't know if I've been misdiagnosed because I'm on medication that treats schizophrenia. So for me, I'm like, I'm a schizophrenic. He's like, you're not a schizophrenic. And I should have asked him to delve deeper because he goes, sometimes hallucinations go with borderline, and borderline, this is something else that I was totally misinformed. Borderline was originally borderline psychosis disorder or psychotic disorder.
Wait,
we changed it to borderline personality disorder. I don't know, to make people feel better or just be like,
so, dude, she's probably not on any medication. Like, this doesn't even make any sense to me. How do you not know? Like, what's your diagnosis? I feel like she's lying about any diagnosis at this point, because she would have said, like, oh, I'm diagnosed for, like, whatever, fucking foot and mouth disease. I don't really know. This is ridiculous.
Personality disorder. You're not psychotic disorder, which is like that. I thought that was me. But because I was referred twice to get this medication for schizophrenia, I was just like, well, I'm schizophrenic. Like,
no, but you didn't. You didn't. Check. They don't.
I am in fact not. And a lot of people have been saying that. So like, kudos to you for being online therapist and knowing that before me. I honestly was just like, I'm schizophrenic. It's like, that's what it is.
What is this? Just comes down to a fundamental. You're just a bad liar at this point, Trisha. How do you think dude, this blows my mind, because this to me means that Trisha thinks that the way medication works is that you just get medication for a behavior and they say, yeah, it's probably for schizophrenia. So they're like, oh, you have a behavior? Here's some medication. Maybe it's this. That's not the way that this works. The way it works is, okay, we've gotten you diagnosed with this, so we're going to give you medication to support it. So she doesn't even understand the process of the way that you would get medicated. So does she ever been to any therapist before? There's no fucking way. There's no way.
So did you guys notice something significant between the Dr. Drew video and the clip we just watched? I will give you a hint. Look at these two screenshots. The one on the left is from the Dr. Drew video, and the one on the right is from Trisha's podcast. What looks the same? Y'all, she is in the exact same outfit, has the exact same hair and makeup, which means she filmed the podcast episode the exact same day as the live stream with Dr. Drew.
That means that she was so mind blown by Dr. Drew's wisdom that she felt like she needed to make a fucking video right then.
Yes, Trisha uploaded this like 4 days after the Dr. Drew live, but it's pretty clear that she filmed it right after the live stream. So wouldn't you think if Trisha was diagnosed twice, she would follow up with her actual doctor and ask them questions about their diagnosis before filming a video telling the internet that they did not have schizophrenia?
That's way too deep. This is too deep. That's too good of a catch. Holy shit. It doesn't even make sense. Trisha would say, no, I got the diagnosis on the phone. I talked to my provider. Dude, get out of here. There's no way. You can't even argue that there's gross negligence in this provider. It's just that she's just a fucking liar.
You think that Trisha would trust her own doctors more than a celebrity doctor that does this for entertainment? I know that's what I would personally do if I got diagnosed twice with a disorder like schizophrenia. But the reason Trisha did not do that, you guys, is because Trisha knows it's a fucking lie. When I saw this, you guys, I was pissed.
Bro, this is very interesting because Mysterious T seems angrier than the first episode. The first episode didn't seem to be particularly angry, but this one, she seems to be like mad at Trisha for being a liar. And I understand it 100%. But the language is more charged. And I appreciate
because
it.
It's not cool to use mental health as a weapon on the internet. It's not cool to self-diagnose and exploit the illness to get attention and money. People actually have to live with mental disorders like this and go through serious shit like therapy and different medications just so they can hopefully live a normal life. It's not something that should be lied about and used as a shield to make people feel sorry for them and guilty to stop criticism. Remember Trisha's quote, if I make people feel guilty, I get things awesome. Straight from Trisha's book, this wasn't just a silly statement that Trisha thought in her childhood. It was a life lesson that Trisha learned from her own mother. And life lessons are something you hold on to in your adulthood. A good example of Trish using this fake schizophrenia diagnosis as a shield was when the BuzzFeed reporter was doing an article on Gabby Hanna. She posted an email she sent to the journalist trying to guilt her into not mentioning Trisha's name in the article she wrote about Gabby. Right here in the email, she specifically says,
I have to read it myself. You guys know how I am. That's very interesting. Wait, so this is how I woke up on my birthday morning this year. In stress and depression. I emailed the BuzzFeed author to plead to not associate me with Gabby. I had the worst anxiety of my life.
In the article she wrote about Gabby. Right here.
Now, I wouldn't doubt that she had anxiety, but everybody can and does have anxiety. Right? Everybody can and does have anxiety, but not everybody has chronic diagnosable anxiety. So I get anxiety. Like right now, Mom Gus in the chat saying, "Did you clean up the sink in the bathroom?" I didn't even know that was a thing I was supposed to do. So now I'm very anxious that she's going to kill me.
but I don't have diagnosable anxiety. So the fact that she's saying where I have depression and anxiety, I have depression sometimes too, but it doesn't mean that I'm depressed, or it doesn't mean that I have diagnosable depression. So it's interesting that the way that like Trisha like uses this language. Hi, sir. What is that? Sarasha? Whatever. It was wonderful meeting you yesterday, and once again, thank you for coming out and interviewing me. I really felt honored, and it was a nice chat with somebody who gets it. I just wanted to email this morning to ask you if my story is published. That if my story is published, please omit anything about Gabby Hanna. While you believe her to be a troll, she's really affected by mental health. Back in January when I did her podcast and she tried to convince me things when they actually did not happen. That's interesting. Did we confirm that those things did or didn't happen? Or so either Trisha is actually being empathetic to Gabby, or Trisha is just saying Gabby has a mental illness and that's why that's why she's making up this information that's actually true, but Trisha's claiming is a lie. Trauma dumped me and recently harassed me into thinking that she's going to expose me. I want to start your association with her and my name ever again. Blah, 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 blah. All right, it sounds like Trisha probably said that it would be fine if she was quoted, and then she decided to back out of it, and the person was like, "Fuck you, Trisha. I'm not playing that game with you," which I understand.
In the email, she specifically says, I just wanted to email you this morning and ask that if my story is published, please omit anything about Gabby Hanna. While you believe her to be a troll, she really affected my mental health back in January when I did her podcast.
Oh, she affected my mental health.
Things happened when they absolutely did not. And then she put in parentheses, triggered many schizophrenic episodes for me after. Trauma.
Well, good thing I let her read it because I'm a fucking idiot.
Dumped on me and then recently started harassing me into thinking she's going to expose me.
Dude, all these buzzwords, trauma dumped, schizophrenia when she doesn't have it, all these are very interesting. I wish that Ethan would actually invite Mysterious T on. She's very, very well informed.
Zero association with her.
That's what I'm saying. Women are better archaeologists because they know how to dig up the fucking past better, bro.
Or her name ever again. She needs serious help, and platforming her on any level is not something I want anything to do with. You know what happened when Trisha put all of this out? Their fans attacked this journalist because she ended up mentioning Trisha in the article. This is a great example of how dangerous things can get with the lies that Trisha tells. It causes a lot of hurt to a lot of innocent people. In fact, the journalist touched on this in a recent article about Trisha, and she said the following. Paytas didn't even want their name to be mentioned anywhere near Hannah's, an impossible request. A lot of Hannah's online fame at this point is tied up with her fights with Paytas. Paytas tweeted crap portions of our emails that made it seem like I had agreed to keep them entirely out of the article, which I had not. For weeks, Paytas's most staunch supporters have been sending me doxing threats, suggestions I kill myself.
Dude, she gave Ethan so much shit for getting doxed because of his fans when he was just telling his truth about the situation. And now, that by your own logic, Trisha, you're getting this person doxxed. The difference is you're a liar, and Ethan was being genuine. So, like, you're just an asshole. You're not doxing anybody, but you're a piece of shit.
And said I be fired. Racist jabs about my name and appearance and suggestions that I could be sued for. My Instagram DMs, Twitter replies, and email inboxes are still filled with them. Despite Paytas's fury over being associated with Hannah in any capacity,
that makes sense,
they did recently go on Tana Mojo's podcast, Canceled, and once again publicly discuss Hannah and their ongoing feud. Trisha is a public
Well, I mean, I guess you could say, well, Trisha's already out for it because of this stinky journalist, so she might as well keep committing. Dude, this seems like really shitty, though. This is fucked up. This journalist almost lost their job because of this.
Can't dictate what gets written about her. When I seen all of this going down, I was in shock over the amount of people that were agreeing with Trisha and thinking it was okay to go harass this journalist. Side note, I don't care if you think BuzzFeed is a trashy outlet. Nobody deserves a hate mob sent their way.
I mean, Trisha's a trashy person. Without BuzzFeed, Trisha wouldn't get any attention. So, you know, who cares?
Just doing their job. It was in fact impossible to write about Gabby Hanna without mentioning Trisha Paytas. And I'm sorry, Trisha did that to herself because she uploaded so many videos and TikToks about Gabby Hanna over the past couple of years. And she still talks about Gabby Hanna every chance she gets. Even though she acts like it's so bad for her mental health if anybody else mentions Trisha in reference to Gabby. It's the weirdest thing I've ever seen. And while we're on the subject of Gabby, let's not forget that Trisha put out so many many tweets mentioning schizophrenic episodes because Gabby was tweeting in response to a Frenemies episode where Trisha and Ethan talked about Gabby. This was way before Gabby's series was even posted. Trisha had her own fans afraid for her safety because Trisha was saying that she needed to go get help, even though Trisha was fine enough to leak voice memos and post all these tweets and upload a full YouTube video titled Gabby Please Stop, where she went on and on about how Gabby was triggering their schizophrenia. Oh, and by the way, you guys, these videos have been completely scrubbed from Trisha's channel, which is why the thumbnail images are so bad. I wonder why these videos are deleted. This is what Trisha does. They lie about their mental health and trauma to get attention.
You know, I just want to let you know, Mysterious T, there was one point where you called Trisha she, and I caught it, okay? Yeah, you're transphobic.
Sorry for them. It's just so messed up to me, you guys. Another thing that I found interesting about this whole situation with the schizophrenia was in a video that was uploaded a few weeks ago, she started talking about how her childhood trauma was triggering schizophrenic episodes. Check it out.
When I started therapy in 2019, like for real, it was about my breakup. It was about everything happening in the now, which is like what I needed. I needed to do that for like a year. I got diagnosed with borderline, so I went to group therapy, talk therapy, and then getting diagnosed in 2021 and being on medication for schizophrenia. 2021 and went to group therapy, talk therapy, and then getting diagnosed in 2021 and being on medication for schizophrenia.
I don't understand the way that she talks about these things is very interesting. Because she says I'm getting diagnosed and getting medication for schizophrenia, but like why? So were you saying that you were diagnosed for something else, but you didn't need medication for it? What does this mean? I don't understand. You know what I mean? Like, oh, did she get a bipolar or fuck? I'm gonna lose. Did she get a diagnosis for like bipolar or something? But they just said you don't need any medication. Is that what happened? Because maybe that's what happened. Maybe Trisha actually does have a diagnosis for a particular mental issue, but she doesn't actually require medication. She just needs additional, outlets like going to a therapy to make sure that she's aware of her shit. That's possible. I wouldn't doubt that. That makes sense to me. But that also tells us that Trisha. Not that it's not that bad, because it's still, of course, it's still something that could be very troubling to deal with. But that suggests to me that she's being very hyperbolic about the support that she requires when it comes to her mental illness and how manageable it is, because it seems to be actually fairly manageable. So this is very interesting. It's a very interesting thing here.
I really had a lot of other things to focus on, but I went through some childhood trauma therapy, talk therapy, talking about trauma I had when I was 6 that I've honestly blacked out. And that was a lot.
And we talked about that too. When it comes to therapists, it's a very interesting phenomenon. Therapists can suggest you things that happened that actually didn't happen. So it's possible that this therapist, if she even is going to one, this supposed therapist, suggested things to her and maybe they didn't actually happen, but she thinks that they did. I know this sounds very bizarre, but I'm being very serious about this being a thing. And now they have basically got in her head that she has a particular issue that she may not actually have.
I think that might have triggered some schizophrenic episodes. I'm not an expert, but I think it did. Because it didn't feel like my life. Just like schizophrenia doesn't feel like my life. I don't feel like a schizophrenic. I don't think anyone believes it. I don't even believe it. But they were real, and my hallucinations, and I needed help for it.
This was just interesting to me, and I wanted to play it for you guys because the schizophrenia has been...
Maybe she shopped around for a diagnosis, too. I mean, she literally admitted she didn't have the diagnosis. So it's...
lie, so I highly doubt she was actually talking about any childhood trauma in therapy. Oh, and this clip that we just watched was after the first episode of the series was posted. Trisha did this in a lot of YouTube videos after I uploaded the first episode. It was like she was trying to discredit herself, so just kind of keep that in mind too. One other thing I want to show you guys before we move on to the next slide. There was actually a recent contradiction from Trisha about the hallucinations that she was experiencing, and I want to show you guys real quick. Trisha went on a podcast called Trash Tuesday, and Trisha was specifically asked if she experienced smell hallucinations. Check out what she said.
Can I ask you about schizophrenia?
Yeah.
What are
I want to ask
to what degree do you have like auditory hallucinations?
Both. I have auditory and visual. Yeah.
Do you have smell?
No.
Then fast forward to a recent podcast episode of My Chemical Imbalance. Trisha contradicts herself and says this.
And so I've been sober since December 18th. And then he was like, that your drug use could have been suppressing voices, which was weird because it could also bring on voices from what I've read and stuff like that. So he's like, it could. So when you got sober is when like kind of these auditory and visual hallucinations, and sometimes even like my smelling and touch hallucinations.
Oh my god, dude! Literally, she hears somebody says a thing about something, and then she goes, "That's me now." Oh, dude, this is an execution sentence for Trisha. I don't say that lightly either. This is a fucking execution sentence for this person.
Like they're very real.
So yeah, on the Trash Tuesday podcast, Trish was specifically asked if they had smell hallucinations, and Trish said no. But fast forward a month later, all of a sudden they magically have them. Shocker, another lie from Trisha. That's the thing with Trisha. She will lie about the lies that she is telling because Trisha can't keep up with it all. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if the voices and hallucinations were part of the lie as well, because a TikTok account recently found a clip of Trisha talking about how she would lie when she was...
I'm just trying to see if that was a TikTok account I know. Is that Contradictions of Trish? I think that's Contradictions of
younger about
Trish.
hearing and seeing things,
I know that
just
one.
so
That's
that she
funny.
could hopefully get diagnosed with schizophrenia. Check it out.
Wait, what?
When you're supposed to be in your head, because I would just lie and make up stories every week to like counteract what I told them the week before, and they would like literally be like, and that's probably why they diagnosed me with schizophrenia, because I literally was like telling them one week, like literally, yeah, probably I lied a lot in therapy.
You guys,
Oh my god. Trisha, you stupid fucking idiot. You're so dumb. You're such a dumb person. You forgot that you said that? This is incredible. Dude, this is literally Trisha's execution sentence. I'm living for this fucking moment. That's incredible.
I literally just can't. Like, Trisha puts so much stuff on the internet that contradicts herself, and she leaves it up, and it's like she forgets.
Because that sounds genuine. Like, yeah, I was trying to get a diagnosis, so I decided to be a fucking asshole. Oh, really? That makes sense to me. I actually believe that you did that. You seem like the kind of person who would do something shitty like that.
About this stuff. It's the weirdest thing I've ever seen. By the way, this TikTok account is really good at showing contradictions from Trisha. I highly suggest you check it out on TikTok
Contradictions
if
of
you have
Trish.
it. I will link it in the description box down below if you're interested. But anyways, you guys, there's so much I could go into about this schizophrenia stuff, but I think that is enough to show you guys to prove the points that I'm trying to make. Trisha has no limits to the lies that she tells the public, and the lies just keep getting bigger and bigger. There is a couple more lies I want to show you guys before we move on to the next segment. Back in Trisha's older YouTube videos and Trisha's book, one thing that Trisha said that really stood out to me was that they would never lie about their family. Check out this clip.
I think my dad thought I was making stuff up, and even my mom. I don't know if anyone believed me, but stuff would go missing. But again, it's kind of like the boy who cried wolf. If you make stuff up. But I never did about my family. I think when it comes to family, real life, human relationships and emotions, I would lie more about stuff of like, oh, my dad's a producer, or I was an extra in a movie when I was 5 in Home Alone, or something like that kind of stupid shit. It was never stuff that could like affect someone's life, especially with my stepmom, my dad, my mom, all this stuff.
So fast forward 5 years later, Trisha lied about her own father and stepmom. In the wrestling video that Trisha posted 4 months ago, they claimed that their stepmom forced Trisha's father to stop hugging Trisha because her chest was too big at the age of 8 years old.
I never heard that in my entire... Wait, hold on a second. So Trisha made a lie up about her father's... her stepmother sexualizing her and saying that her dad should stop hugging her? And that seems like that would be the whole entire root of the sexualization arc. What the fuck?
Check it out.
Dude,
my own father
holy
was told
fuck.
by my stepmother from like at age 8 to not hug me because she thought it was inappropriate to feel my boobs. So I've never hugged my father since. Imagine not getting to hug your father because he's worried that other people will think that you're like being sexual with your own daughter. My father.
Dude, get the fuck. I didn't even know this was an allegation. My mind's exploding fucking shit. Dude, what? Dude, Trisha is such a dumb idiot. I just don't know how else to say it. I really just don't know how else to say it. Holy shit.
Catholic going church guy that's never done like a bad thing in his life. And I was like, are you freaking kid.
Like, really fucking weird, right? What stepmom is going to forbid someone's father from hugging their own child? It doesn't make any sense, but I will prove this lie in just a second. But Trisha even blasted her own father and stepmom on a Frenemies episode the week after she uploaded the wrestling video. This episode of Frenemies has 4.7 million views, and this is what Trisha said. Check it out.
Also, keep in mind that apparently her brother doesn't like to associate herself with him, doesn't like to associate himself with her, they, whatever, because she constantly lies. That's the
even
narrative.
today, like just anything. Well, not just you, but like anyone like is scared to touch me. Like my dad didn't want to hug me because my stepmom's like, she has boobs, that's inappropriate. And I was like, why? Like it's
happening.
Think about like being a girl at like 9 years old, you have big boobs, and your dad won't hug you because your stepmom's like, that's inappropriate because she has boobs.
That's you know your family being fucked up.
So it's different. It's totally different. Like with you and whoever, you don't want to hug me, don't hug me. I'm not a huggy person anyways. But it's just like,
yes, you are.
It's just
So first off, it's just weird for Trisha to spread around this type of information about her own father to millions of people. I get that she hates her stepmom, but this makes Trisha's father look bad as well. Here's why I think it's a lie. First off, in Trisha's book on page 4,
here's why I think it's a lie. Trisha Paytas said it. That's all you really needed to say.
she talks about how good her father was about not introducing them to a bunch of different women. And this was taking place around the age of 10. She specifically said in a span of 7 years from the ages of 3 to 10 that their father only introduced them to 2 different women. And the girlfriend that Trisha's father had when they were around the age of 10, Trisha actually liked her. So based on Trisha's book, I don't think her father was dating his current wife when Trisha was 8 years old. So if they weren't even dating, how can she tell Frank that he isn't allowed to hug his own daughter? Like, it makes no sense. Trisha's dad didn't marry his current wife until Trisha was in the 8th grade, which would make Trisha around 13 or 14 years old when they got married. And until
Wait, hold on. I missed all of that.
like, it makes weren't even dating her age introduced them to 2 different women. This was taking place around the age of 10. She specifically said in a span of 7 page 4, she talks about how good her father was about not introducing them to a bunch of different women. And this was taking place around the age of 10. She specifically said in a span of 7 years from the ages of 3 to 10 that their father only introduced them to 2 different women. And the girlfriend that Trisha's father had when they were around the age of 10, Trisha actually liked her. So based on Trisha's book, I don't think her father was dating his current wife when Trisha was 8 years old. So if they weren't even dating, how can she tell Frank that he isn't allowed to hug his own daughter? Like, it
Oh,
makes
Jesus
no
Christ.
sense.
That was
Trisha's
fucking
dad didn't
intense.
marry his current wife until Trisha was in the 8th grade, which would make Trisha around 13 or 14 years old when they got
Interesting.
married. And until that marriage, things were so laid back with Trisha's father. He did anything that Trisha could ask for. It wasn't until that marriage that things started to change a little bit for Trisha. And when I say change, I mean like normal rules that most parents discipline their kids with.
Yeah, like
but
do
to
the
take
dishes.
it one step even further, there's a quote from Trisha's book that I showed in episode 1 about the court hearing where Trisha had to testify against her own father. As you can see at the end of the quote, it says, "He hugged me and said everything was okay." So right there is proof that he hugged her since she was 8 years old. Do you actually think that Trisha would respect not being able to hug her own father? I don't. It just is
Not even that. That's not even the question to have. Do you think that the father would allow somebody to say you cannot hug somebody? You can't hug your daughter. Do you think the father would allow her, like, somebody to be like, you can't hug your daughter? That was where I would focus more on. There's no fucking way. About the way that she speaks about him is so positive and highly. There's absolutely no way that he would allow. Like, think about this. Imagine you're a single father or a single mother. Would you let the other person you're dating, even if you married him, be like, you can't hug your daughter? Shut the fuck up. There's no way. That's asinine. There would have to be, like, I feel like that her father would have to be displayed as like a real piece of shit, like, that didn't love her in order for that narrative to even be conceivably true.
is a ridiculous lie. But the point in showing this to you guys is to show you that Trisha has no limits on the lies that they tell today. They will lie about anything to prove a point that they're trying to make, even their own family. And that is just so messed up to me. All right, you guys, I got one more lie to show you before we get into the real serious stuff. So Trisha's new podcast is really revealing a lot of lies and contradictions about Trisha. And they recently revealed another lie that was in the wrestling video from 4 months ago. ago. Yes, we're going back to the wrestling video one more time. So there was a part in the wrestling video where Trisha said that they were gaining weight on purpose to turn men off from them. And this is what they said. Check it out.
Because I thought at this point, I'm like, people are done sexualizing me because so many people call me gross and stuff like that. It's like, I really truly feel in my heart and sabotaging my weight loss and stuff my entire life, like never wanting to lose weight. Like I talked to therapists about it, I've been all this stuff, is I truly feel I don't want any more attention on my body. I like having extra weight because it turns off a lot of men, and that's the truth of it.
That doesn't really make sense though, because she likes to binge eat. I don't really. No, I guess those things are mutually exclusive. I just feel like that's just not the truth.
Like the only way the motivation stopped when I was a kid was when I started gaining weight, and I remember I went away for the summer with my dad, and I came back to school, and that same person, my abuser, was like, "You got too fat," and I was 10, and I just kept gaining weight because I thought it would turn men off from me, and I still feel that way because as much as I've capitalized and made money and profited off my sexuality, and I own it because when I'm in control of it, I love it, and I think it's a beautiful, powerful thing. But when I'm not in control,
see, look at that. That's just more. It's. I mean, listen, I get it. That narrative isn't false. I don't think that narrative's false. But she's writing modern day like narratives, palatable social narratives, to drive all the things that she's saying. You understand what I'm saying? She's like, oh, this is something that people say, so it's an excuse for me. It doesn't. Her shit just doesn't make sense.
It really makes me feel some type of way, and I think that's what started my gender identity issues because I never looked at myself as sexual. I never wanted.
Wait, you have to hear that as well. You have to hear this. Oh, dude, this is so fucking good. I caught her. Okay. So before, remember, she was saying that people that people. There's no reason that she could possibly ever say that. Or it's impossible. This is her claim. It's impossible for me to be lying about having gender dysphoria because that would make me less dateable. Because then people would want to sleep with, they wouldn't want to be with me because there would be a chance of me passing off my transness onto my kid. But then she just said that she thinks that the reason that she developed gender dysphoria was because of the fact that she was over-sexualized and I guess assaulted when she was younger, meaning that there isn't a biological factor in her identity as trans. But not only that, if we can prove that these traumas didn't actually happen, it means that she has no justifier for being trans by her own logic, and it means that she doesn't have gender dysphoria. Or rather, you can't identify as trans. I understand that there's a difference between, I get it. But do you understand what I'm saying?
Big boobs when I kid.
So according to Trisha, in this clip, they sabotaged any weight loss as a kid. They actually gained weight to stop from being SA'd. And even today, in the present time, they gain weight because they don't want the attention. And if you watched episode 1 of this series, you know that some of the stuff that Trisha's saying in this clip is already a lie. But in a very recent podcast episode, Trisha actually elaborated more on this, and they said the complete opposite of what they said 3 months ago. Check it out.
When I was a child, like I wanted to be anorexic. Like I wish I could just stop eating. Like I wanted to look.
Dude, she's such
skin and bones. I still want to be that weight loss story that people congratulate me for losing weight.
Oh my God.
Whether that's healthy or not, I'm telling you right now, I am not healthy. I will always think thin is more attractive than fat. And this is coming from someone who's been fat my entire life. And that sucks because there is some self-hatred there. When I'm being 100% honest with myself, I want to be skinny at all costs. And that's why I say I wish I could just not eat. If someone were to ask me, like right now, you could be 120 pounds if you shave, but you're going to lose 15 years of your life. I'd be like, put me on 120. Give me that 120 scale read.
I would take that bet for you like 4 times this way.
And that's so fucked up. It's so fucked up because I want kids and I'm willing to risk 15 years without my future children because I want to be thin.
I thought you couldn't have kids because like syphilis or something.
Like, I want to be thin for that wow factor. I always thought, what's the one thing I can do that keeps shocking people? I've already done this, this, and this. What can I do? You know what would really shock people? I come back with a 100-pound weight loss. Whoa, she did it.
Whoa.
So I lost 30 pounds in high school and I did it.
I wouldn't be impressed. I'd be like, whoa, you're still a shitty person. Like, what am I supposed to, you know what I mean?
5 days a week, I would drink just some fast. This was also doing my 2 gym classes. I would drink just some fast during the week, and then Friday night, my mom would come home from her shift. She'd bring back Taco Bell, and this was my splurge. And so I wouldn't eat all week. I would literally I'd have 2 slim fasts a day. I'd have 1 in the morning, 1 at night. That was it. It was for some fucking play I was doing. I think it was called Swing Fever or something at fucking Pecatonica High School. And it worked. Oh my!
The fact that your mother would allow you to do that, it makes her a bad mom. Oh yeah, you want to drink some fasts? Jesus, what are you fucking kidding me? Come on. Like, I mean, if you need any more evidence or support that your mom is a terrible fucking mom, come on.
God, and my teachers are like, oh my God, like you're losing so much weight, and it felt fucking phenomenal. Like I felt so cool. I was like, it was everything. I was like, hell
so
yeah.
Cool.
Just so many lies and contradictions, you guys. I actually think this podcast episode Trisha posted recently was pretty honest between the weight loss, and this is actually the episode where they talked about the bullying that we watched earlier in the video. So the point of showing you guys these.
Why doesn't Trisha just make a video that's like, hey, here are all my lies. I'm sorry I lied, but I got caught. See, honestly, I think this would be very redeeming for her. Hey, guy, hey, I'm sorry that I lied about all these things. I got very caught up in the fame and trying to maintain popularity, so I said that I had a bunch of things that I don't have. The fact that I have to try to maintain my lies is really stressing me out, and I'm trying to be better. I would be like, okay, I respect it. We'd be done. I mean, I'd probably still make fun of her, but but you get my point. It'd be like, okay, I can respect what you're saying, but she's not gonna do that.
These lies again is to show if Trisha can lie about all of these important things that normal people wouldn't normally lie about, then Trish can also lie about SA experiences with their teachers. And I question them because there are so many contradictions between the actual stories she has been telling and what they have stated in the past. Before we get deep into that, I want to play a clip from a YouTuber named Brittany Simon. She talked about Trisha's SA stories and she put it into perfect words that I completely agree with. Check it out.
To the people who got upset with me for saying I don't believe Trisha Paytas' sexual assault stories. Now, this is specific. It's not that I don't believe all of them. I just don't believe most of them. And I believe Trisha is a liar based off of what we know her to be, which means if she can lie about all of these very important things, I don't know why you wouldn't make the logical leap that she would also lie about her sexual assault stories, especially when she throws down celebrity names and then doesn't go into detail because it's too intense. No offense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
As a sexual assault victim myself, like I personally have the belief system that we need to be very aware that people will use this for clout, and also that sexual assault victims aren't being heard and they are being ignored.
If you notice, the people who see, this is the problem. The people who I think support Trisha the most are non-assault survivors because they don't understand the mentality that goes along with it. And I'm not saying I do. I know people who do. But those are the people who call them out the most. Those are the people that are bold enough to say like, hey, you're invalidating my trauma by falsely identifying with my trauma.
Two realities can exist at once. These tiny life contradictions do exist at one time, guys. Just because, okay, you don't want to fall into the number 2 bubble of thinking, oh, all people who claim sexual assault are always telling the truth and all people who claim sexual assault are lying. Like, these are too black and white. Like, how do you not know that both of these can exist at once? Maybe you've never experienced it, but I have. I've had to go to court for it. Like, I completely understand what it's like to face somebody who's just blatantly lying about something. It is very devastating. So here's the thing, though. Trisha exists in a bubble where people allow her to do this.
I just thought Brittany explained this so well. I wanted to include it in this segment. So now let's get into the timeline of Trisha coming out with their SA experiences with their teachers, which will lead into the allegations against the teacher that was never arrested.
She claims that they were arrested, but they died, I think, right? And I tried to look into it and couldn't find it.
2020, Frenemies #7 was uploaded. This episode was shortly after all the stuff with Moses came out. The pictures of the bruises on Moses's arm were public, and Trisha was getting backlash for laying her hands on Moses. The next episode, we will be talking about Moses and Jason, so I'm not going to focus on that.
I'm so excited for this episode already, bro. I'm fucking eating this up
right this second. But what I found interesting about this episode is Dr. Drew was talking to Trisha about what happened with her and Moses and asked Trisha if she is in therapy for it. Trisha proceeds to tell Dr. Drew that she is in therapy, and Dr. Drew says, well, you know, this kind of behavior is a sign of severe childhood trauma, and asks her if she's talking through that in therapy. And I want you guys to listen to what her response is. Check it out.
Working now on it, and it's like a thing that's like super sensitive because I've never gone that far, you know, and I've gotten help for the past year because I had 2 mental hospital stays where I was put on a 5150. So like I go into these like
these states.
Yeah, like it's like a blackout where I'm like not that person.
I'm really sorry, but like when Trisha starts crying, I feel the urge to laugh. I'm not trying to be rude. It's just that's my natural reaction to her because she's such a shitty person.
Yes.
And like that was the first time that happened. So now that that's out there on the internet, like everyone thinks that's just me, that I just like abuse people, and it's like it's never been that far.
Okay, but like when you, I hate. Could we personalize this, right? So let's say someone in your life, dude. Let's say someone in your life, like your sister, was getting abused by her husband or something, and they started crying and said, "I'm not the kind of person I am." So sorry. Would you feel empathy for them? Or would you be like, "Wow, you're a fucking loser. Like, fuck you. I'm gonna beat the shit out of you." That's my response. But it's like somehow people are we're gonna feel bad for her because she hit her partner. What are you saying? It doesn't even make sense.
Right. So let's be clear. It's very much the same thing. Those blackouts or whiteout or red outs.
But you know, when she guilts people, she gets what she wants. And some people cry for guilt to guilt people. I wonder if that's what it is. You know what I mean?
When they hurt themselves and other people.
Yeah.
And it needs to be treated. And you're treating it. I mean, that's the thing. Now it's also a sign of like really heavy duty childhood trauma. So are you getting that treated too?
Not so much yet.
Oh my God! Oh, is it a sign? Well, thank you for telling her that it's a sign, Dr. Drew. This way, she knows that she can like use that as a weapon because you know that's what she does. Oh, is that what that is? Shit! I got another excuse now. You gotta stop. Irresponsible to tell her it's signs of things. It's weird. I don't see Dr. Drew. Dr. Drew has like he's I guess qualified to do whatever. But what's interesting is that he doesn't seem to know what the fuck he's talking about. You don't suggest to people like that need therapy that they have things, especially somebody who historically over-identifies with the experiences of other people. You don't lead them into a thing. You don't ask like that kind of a leading question, like, "Oh, that's a sign of childhood trauma. Do you have that? Are you taking care of that?" Yeah. No, you don't ask questions like that. That's just that's creating an opening for her to lie.
I mean, because I had my blackout moments where I woke up and I was like, I didn't want to do that.
No,
like,
I understand.
I don't know.
I get it.
So,
bro, I blacked out and I hit somebody. Yeah, okay. That says I don't care. Like that doesn't sound like a fucking excuse to me.
And so that's
I don't want to do that. I don't want to hurt anyone, even in my relationship now. I am trying to like sabotage it to not make it last because I don't want to be harmful to anybody, and I'm dangerous.
Bro, you see this? Like, it's a victim. I'm trying to sabotage it because I know I did a wrong thing. It's like, dude, shut up. Shut the fuck up, dude. You sound like such a bullshit artist.
Myself and dangerous other people, and it's bad.
Okay,
you know?
so stop.
So if you go on to watch this for 5 more minutes, Dr. Drew then asks Trisha if Moses is going to therapy with her so that they can both work through their emotions of what happened when Trisha hit him. And Trisha then completely contradicts herself from what she said 5 minutes earlier. Check it out.
Yeah.
He's here, by the way.
Okay, but Trisha, do you guys do anything together therapeutically?
We have it, and it's more just because I do talk a lot about like childhood trauma that I don't talk about with anybody, not even on my YouTube. So I kind of just don't want him to know everything, like because a lot of my parents, both my parents don't really know all of it. So it's just like something I don't want him to know right now.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
So why would you say specifically you don't talk about childhood trauma in therapy, then 5 minutes later say you talk a lot about childhood trauma? It doesn't make any sense, you guys. In my personal opinion, I believe Trisha saw this as an opportunity to tell stories about their childhood that would make people feel guilty about being mad about Trisha hitting Moses. Because it was shortly after this podcast episode that Trisha started telling the internet these stories about their teachers. And after doing more digging after the first episode, the first time Trisha brought this up was actually on TikTok. I thought it was frenemies, but I did a lot more digging and I'm pretty sure this was the first time that she talked about it. Now, just a disclaimer, Trisha has thousands of videos between TikTok and YouTube. So it is possible that I missed something, but I have done a ton of research and this is the first thing I can seriously find. Plus, Trish said in the Dr. Drew episode that she had never talked about it online before, so I'm 95% sure this was the first time that they brought it up. And we'll get deeper into this TikTok once we start talking about Mr. Riney. Now, one other thing that Trisha specifically said in the Dr. Drew episode was that her parents didn't know a lot about this trauma, which is why Moses doesn't go to therapy with her. So one thing I want to point out right now is if Trisha's parents truly didn't know about any of this trauma, Schizophrenia. Why would you talk about it online versus telling your family first so they don't find out from a YouTube video? That's an absolutely awful way for your parents to find out. It doesn't make any sense. I know you guys will probably say, well, maybe she told her parents before uploading the videos. Trisha. And I would normally agree with you on that if Trisha's mom didn't specifically state in the BuzzFeed article that was released about Trisha recently that she was finding out about a lot of this stuff through Trisha's YouTube videos. And this is what was said in the article. Yet throughout all their controversies and challenges, Paytas has seemingly shared more with their audience than their own family. Lena told me she actually learned a lot about Paytas' life from watching their YouTube videos. Even now, Linus and Paytas have yet to have a conversation about their history of addiction or their mental health. Quote, I don't know, maybe
so the mom doesn't even know about these things? Interesting.
We should be more open, end quote, Paytas said, holding their mom's hand. Quote, she had hid a lot from me until later, Lena said, and then I knew, and I'm like, that would have broken my heart if I had known some of the stories, end quote. It's just all so strange. Trisha seems close with their family, and in the Dr. Drew episode, she seemed like she was trying to protect them, but instead of working through it in therapy and maybe having your family in therapy with you and talking through it that way,
to me, it just indicates
tell
it's a
all
lie.
these stories publicly and have your own parents find out through YouTube videos, it's just all so weird to me. So now that you know the timeline of when Trisha started talking about this publicly, let's get into the allegations of Mr. Riney.
There we go. That's the big boy one. That's what we all the way for.
One thing you guys need to understand is how much the Mr. Riney story has changed over the past 6 months each time Trisha has talked about it. The first time Trisha talked about this teacher was in a TikTok that was uploaded on December 4th, 2020. They do not name the teacher in this TikTok, but the details are extremely important when comparing it to the other times that she talked about this incident. I'm going to read each slide of this TikTok. She starts off by saying, 6th grade teacher known to be mean to everyone takes a liking to me and gives me the nickname .com. She then goes on to say, we start playing games in class that requires heads down to not cheat, and he stands behind me the whole time and rubs himself on me. And then she goes on to say, eventually starts putting hands up and down and inside me, and the students report this. She then continues by saying, principal punishes me by switching my classes and telling me I'm no longer allowed to show my arms or legs, and that they need to be covered at all times. She then goes on to say, teacher finds me and gives me kisses on the lips to apologize. And then the next one says, takes pics of me naked in his classroom and told me he'd even send them to Playboy even though I was 12. And then it finishes by saying he gets arrested for having CP on his computer at work. One thing I want to point out.
So wait, okay, so listen, this thing could have, see, this is the fucking really shitty thing. This is like the really fucked up thing about talking about this and about Trisha Paytas. Is you feel bad contesting what could possibly be happening because you don't want to be invalidating to like survivors. And I think that's the desired impact, though. That's what she wants. She wants you to feel like you can't say no to this because it's such a horrible claim that no normal person would ever like make this up. Well, you know, it's Trisha Paytas, not really a normal person. But from a logical perspective, what we're saying is, I mean, none of this really makes sense. I just don't understand. The teacher got caught, and then he continued in the behavior, but the teacher didn't actually get in trouble for the behavior. I don't know. Like, there has to be so many just, like, do you think that Trisha lied about the teacher touching him at one point? I don't know. This is just so much.
Before we move on to the next video is that in the comment section of this TikTok, and there's thousands of comments on this TikTok, you guys, there were 2 separate comments that were left by 2 separate people on 2 different days. And the one on the left, it says, somehow this same story is on Reddit and has been for a couple of years from a different person.
Get out of here.
Suspicious. That's weird.
I was sitting here trying to think, like, what is it? Is there some kind of TV show she harvested this from? And then somebody goes and like, oh, there was on a fucking Reddit. Oh yeah, Redditor moment. Am I right, guys? I mean, what the fuck? That's crazy to me, dude. That's fucking insane. I would not doubt that she lied.
The day before the other person, they said, okay, but 3 years ago, I saw the story on Reddit and it wasn't from Trisha. Now, I tried to find this Reddit post, but it's honestly looking for like a needle in a haystack.
Yeah,
so this is just speculation that she pulled this story from Reddit, but given all the other evidence that's in this video, I wouldn't doubt that she pulled details from someone else's story. What I've noticed with Trisha when she lies or makes up stories, she bases the lies off other people's stories, or she pulls it from like TV shows or movies. That's what she would do when she was young, when she would make up stories. She would base it off of something that she had seen and she would spin it into a lie to tell her classmates.
By a lot of you guys also confessing your lies. I remembered another one of my lies, and it was in the 5th grade, and I said I had a twin and her name was Trixie, and she lived with my dad in California, and that Trixie was really skinny and pretty, and that she was currently on a Disney Channel show under a different name. And at the time there was a show called So Weird, so I was like, I was explaining the character of Fiona on the show, if you guys remember Fee, but like without saying too much. And where I was from in Illinois, like people just, they didn't really know about anything. But yeah, it was Trixie, idiots. And it was like the Parent Trap in my head. So Trixie went with my dad and I went with my mom, and I had that lie for a long time. And I don't know if I ever got called out on it, but maybe that's a good liar.
Sorry guys, we're going to take a small detour here, but I want to play 2 other clips for you guys that really stuck out to me. The clip we just watched is just one of the many times that Trisha would base her lies off of TV shows or something that they had seen. Well, recently Trisha has been talking a lot about how they don't even know who they are and they don't know their own identity, and that they use pop culture to base their life on. It's just really interesting because I personally think a lot of Trisha's stories and experiences that aren't actually hers, especially the recent trauma, is based off of stuff that she has seen online or on TV or in magazines. This isn't her 100% admitting that her stories aren't true, but I just found these clips really interesting, especially because people did comment on that post that it was someone else's story off of Reddit. So check out these clips and you'll see what I'm talking about.
I'm so influenced by pop culture because I have no identity of my own. This is the true thing. I never
That's
had an
true.
identity
We know
growing
that.
up. I have an identity disorder. So I think I don't.
Dude, she's still holding on that she has dissociative identity disorder? Oh my god.
Don't know who I am, so I become other things and other people. Probably why I cosplay and dress up as other people, because that's
Sounds like
who
you,
I
though.
learn from, is movies and TV. I really don't know who I am as a person, so it's sad and exciting at the same time.
It's not, it's mostly just sad.
Videos. And again, I've explained this where it's like, it's not like I watched it and I was like, it's like Britney Spears. I didn't watch Britney Spears like I want to marry her. I didn't even want to be like her friend. And that's how I feel with like Jarway. She was like, I watched him and I just wanted to
Why
be
are
him.
you
And
out of breath?
I wanted to be something, you know. I wanted, in high school, I wasn't anything. I don't know my identity. I still don't know my identity. And that's the scariest thing, to not know who you are or what you like. I just know I find comfort in things. I know I see things on TV and I want to be that. And I like model my life after that. And I find things to imitate my life because I don't know what I like. So like we're watching Darcy and Stacy. This is a show on Discovery. And it's about these two twin sisters who've dated a lot of foreign men, and now they're each married to foreign men, and they have this like these thick Eastern European accents, and like it reminds me a lot of me and Moses. Like the girls remind me of me. And
imagine she's just dating Moses because she saw that somebody liked Eastern men on a fucking TV show. That's pathetic. Oh my god, I don't even feel bad at you at this point because it's just fucking pathetic.
The guys on the show remind me of Moses in like this weird way. It's like if you watch the show, you might be like, no, not so whatever. But, like I watch it, I'm like, okay, this is my life, but it's not. But I'm modeling it that because I don't know the structure that my life is supposed to be without seeing something on TV. And like, I love being in Moses' culture because it gives me some sort of identity. Like, whether he identifies as Israeli, Jewish, like maybe not, but
yeah, I wish that like she would model herself after Anne Frank or something. Am I getting Anne Frank right? I don't know. It's a fucking mute person who never talks. I wish she would identify herself off of something like that. That was the joke. Sorry if it missed, but you understand what I'm saying. I don't want her to talk anymore. Just stop talking. Stop, please.
That's why I like learning about his water philosophy too. I just like to learn what his identity is, right? What he grew up with, because I just don't have that. My identity,
bro, his identity is literally you.
He is.
Like he says that he's water. He's everything. He's all things. That is what he's saying when he's what? When he's saying he's water. I just want to play this out. I'm so fucking bored
Trisha
of
went
it.
live with Dr.
Oh, what
Drew.
the hell did I do? I was like, I just want to play this out. I'm fucking like bored of this fucking level. Wait, how far in were we? Oh shit.
Or do people?
How far in were we, guys? Am I gonna kill myself?
his identity is, right?
There
What
we
he grew
go.
up with. Because I just don't have that. My identity is pop culture. Anyways,
Trisha growing up didn't find her life interesting, which is why they made
Me
up so
neither.
many stories, because
You
they
fucking
always wanted something
dingus.
more. I seriously think a lot of Trisha's lies are always based on something that Trisha sees. But like I said, I just found this really interesting.
Same.
So let's get back to the stories about Mr. Riney. Then on January 19th, 2021, the second time Trisha mentions this publicly was on Frenemies. And this is the episode where it was all about Hair by Jay, Shane Dawson, and Jeffree Star. Now in this episode, Trisha specifically calls out Mr. Riney by name, and this is the first time that she actually names him publicly. Please keep in mind that this podcast has 4.1 million views on it, and here's the clip.
I remember I was going to class with like this teacher that was like forcing himself on me and stuff, and I was just like, how does no one believe me? The principal, like nobody. It was like really weird, and so I think from that, like,
Did that guy eventually did anyone eventually believe you?
Not funny, but like my 6th grade teacher, yeah, I talked about it on TikTok. The one that used to ask me would play like heads down, and he'd come around and like grab my breast and like put his hands on me.
Ew.
He did get arrested. His name was Mr.
Because of
Riney.
you or because of other
So
incidents?
someone else came forward. I never did.
Gross.
But he had child on his computer.
Ew.
Hit the school.
Oh my God. Nobody
Mr.
believed
Riney,
you?
Byron Middle School, and I did say something originally, and like no one believed me. It happened again my 8th grade year. No one believed me, and I was just like,
Bruh.
but that guy did. He did get arrested, and I don't know where he is now, but he did. Yeah.
Now, the major differences I spot between just these two clips is that in the TikTok, she said multiple students reported this and that the principal made Trisha switch classes. But in this Frenemies episode, Trisha said nobody believed her at all and that she was the one that went to the principal. Now, Trisha did talk about this a 3rd time, and it was on March 2nd, 2021 on an episode of Frenemies. Now, Trisha did not name Mr. Riney by name, but she told the same story, and here's the clip of that.
It's crazy. I had an incident happen in middle school where a teacher like groped my boobs all the time when we would do like heads down 7-Up. And so when I finally went to the principal about it, he told the principal, well, she's been wearing water bras, so she's been asking for it. Like, it's been teasing me. And the principal's like, have you been wearing water bras? I'm like, yeah.
Say what? And the principal was like receptive to that
Yeah,
argument?
and he's like, have you been wearing water bras? I'm like, yeah. He goes, okay, well, let's not wear water bras to school. And like, that was my fault because I wore a water bra. I mean, there's been more.
Yeah, she's adding additional information. So she gave out all the information, and now all of a sudden, well, it's because I was wearing like she added an additional part into there. This is interesting. So she it sounds like it's not even her story in the first place, but she changes the story because, again, like being invalidated for like different sexual assault or different shit like that it's socially. It's being put into the forefront of being invalidated for having your experiences by people in your life. And so it seems like Trisha is just trying to weaponize that and bring that into the story that apparently isn't even hers in the first place.
Like that.
Dude, this world is so fucking crazy.
But then that has to mean that the teacher and the fucking principal are both dumb pieces of shit. Like, it doesn't really make sense to me. It's just not adding up to me. I mean, I guess I don't believe it. I guess I'm invalidating Trisha Paytas's fucking whatever, her shit. I guess I'm the bad guy. I forgot. Shit, guys, that's fuck. I'm the bad guy. Doo. All right, I'm getting too much on the tangent.
What is a water bra?
A water bra was my mom's. It was a bra that it was like water.
You fill it with water?
No, it already had the water in the bra. It was very heavy.
Oh, and you were wearing those at what age?
Like 12, because I had uneven boobs, so I was trying to even my boobs out for real. And
he said
he would come feel it all the time because we play that game like heads down, 7-Up, whatever, and you have to like put your head down, or when you were done with the test, but whatever. And so he'd come around and like always like grope and whatever. And so I finally he did get arrested. This guy actually did get arrested, but later on. But they were like, well, she wears a water bra.
So here she claims once again that she was the one that went to the principal, not other students. But she claims here that the teacher actually admitted to doing this to her in front of the principal, and the principal told Trisha that she wasn't allowed to wear water bras at school. Now, she didn't say anything that the principal made her switch classes or anything like that we see in the very first TikTok.
Very good
see
point.
how all these little discrepancies keep coming with each video that we watch.
That
then
makes
the
sense.
4th time she mentions the same story is on TikTok on March 19th, 2021. This time, Trisha encourages her followers to search the teacher and look up his arrest. This TikTok has almost 1 million views on it, and this is what she said. Roll the clip.
I've always been vocal on social media because I was silenced, not to give like a silly reference in this, but I was silenced for so long at my school growing up. I had 3 different incidences with 3 different teachers in regards to SA, R word, and M word. It happened in the school, and one principal didn't believe me. 2, I was too scared to speak up. And 3, the teacher said I was like asking for it. So it was like looked over. The one that I was too scared to speak up on, someone else spoke up years later and he ended up getting arrested. Byron, Illinois. Look it up. His name is Mr. Riney for looking up CP at school.
So now she is claiming in this TikTok that she never spoke up about what this teacher was doing. Do you guys see all the discrepancies with the story?
Yeah, right. I didn't even catch that. She never spoke up, but she said the whole time she did speak up, or the class spoke up, this and that.
Where things get really weird. So Trisha specifically says that this teacher has been arrested. It seems legit, right? Surely if Trisha is encouraging their audience to look this up, it would pop right up when you search it. That isn't the case at all. In fact, when you Google exactly what Trisha says, this teacher does pop up under the top results, but it isn't because he was arrested. It was because he passed away in 2019, and his obituary pops up when you Google what she says. And just a side note, I will be blurring out Mr. Riney's picture in this video, but I have to refer to him by his name because that is what Trisha made public. I'm going to try to respect Mr. Riney's privacy as much as possible in this video while showing you what I have to in order to prove his innocence. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you exactly what pops up when you search exactly what Trisha says. As you can see in this screenshot, I typed it exactly the way Trisha worded it. Byron, Illinois, Mr. Riney, and that was it. So the top results are a couple different things. This obituary is about the teacher that Trisha is talking about, and we will get to that in just a second. But do you see the article that is at the very top here? Look at the headline. Middle school teacher pleads guilty to CP charges. This is another reason I showed you guys all the clips first, because Trisha specifically says in several of the clips that this was her middle school teacher and that it was in the 6th grade. This headline is about a middle school teacher that was arrested for the exact same thing Trisha claims. So when you click on the article, I'm expecting it to be about Mr. Riney, of course, and that's not the case at all. First of all, when you click on the article, it's behind a paywall, so you can't read the article unless you subscribe to the website. And luckily, I paid the $1 fee so I could show you guys this article. The only 2 things you guys really need to focus on in this article is the name of the teacher and the school. The name of the teacher is John Byron Schulich, which isn't Mr. Riney, and the school is Bull Run Middle School, and that middle school is located in Virginia. So I just find it funny that this is the top search that is behind a paywall, so you can't really read what it says unless you pay for it. And the headline of the article before you click on it is exactly what Trisha claims. Now that is just a pretty big coincidence to me. Now all the other articles that pop up around this search, every single one of them is from different schools and different teachers, but the other articles around this search aren't as specific to what Trisha claims like this particular article that I just showed you. And if you don't believe me, I encourage you to look it up for yourself. There is nothing surrounding any essay with students with any teachers from Byron Middle School or Byron High School that I could find on the internet, and I have searched high and low for anything related to this. The only thing that I could find was a lawsuit that was filed in 2019 against the high school because of a coach that was allowing hazing. Outside of that, I couldn't find nothing. If you choose to look into this further, just keep this one thing in mind. If you come across an article that is titled Byron Center High School, that is not the same as Byron High School. Byron Center High School is located in Michigan, and Byron High School and Byron Middle School is located in Illinois, which is where Trisha is from. Now let's move on to Mr. Riney. Based on everything that I have researched on Mr. Riney, he was a very very well-respected person and teacher. Byron, Illinois is a very small town, and before we go any further, I have confirmation that Mr. Riney was teaching at Byron Middle School when Trisha was in 6th grade. He was also a teacher during her 7th grade year as well. The reason I know this is because I had someone that went to middle school with Trisha who wishes to remain anonymous that reached out to me, and they had copies of her middle school yearbooks, and they sent me pictures. This is the yearbook from her 6th grade year. There you can see Trisha pictured, and you can also see Charlie Riney was a teacher during this time, which matches up with the obituary that comes up online. Like I said, I'm not going to show his picture to maintain the little privacy that he has left, but this should be enough confirmation because there is no other teachers with this last name Riney that was teaching while Trisha was at Byron Middle School. Now moving on from that, this is a summary of Mr. Riney's life. He taught at a ton of different schools, including both Byron Middle School, Byron High School, which is where Trisha grew up. But as you can see here, there are several other schools listed because this man was a teacher for 47 years. He didn't stop teaching because he got arrested. He stopped teaching because he retired. This man is also a Vietnam War vet that was honored with a Bronze Star, which is a high honor. If you don't know what a Bronze Star symbolizes,
you know, like not to cut it off, but like I understand the point is, like, you know, he was a Vietnam vet, he was a really good guy. I understand that. My focus though is on the fact that he retired. He retired. We don't need any more of like the social. And I'm not criticizing her for doing this, but we don't need any more like social shit. We don't need any more of the social, like, you know, platitudes, I guess we'd call it. Sorry, this is coming blank. Because he didn't get arrested. You know what I mean? So it's like, we don't. This fucking Trisha lied. She's a piece of shit. She lied about being sexually assaulted by a teacher. She slandered a teacher's name. She slandered somebody's name. She called them a pedophile. Like, and not just a pedophile, a child molester. That's what he said. Because there is a difference between a pedophile and a child molester. Pedophiles have urges are attracted to children. Nobody chooses that. Child molesters act on those urges and they harm children. There's a very big difference. So she called him a child molester. It's disgusting.
In the Army. Here is a short summary of what it means. It is the 4th highest ranking award.
Oh, I think she put it in there because if he had been arrested for CP, he probably would have had some of these platitudes stricken. Very good point. Okay. I don't know if that's true, but that makes sense.
A service member can receive for a heroic deed performed in an armed conflict. For those who receive a Bronze Star medal, it is a signal of their sacrifice, bravery, and honor while serving their country. The other thing I want you guys to focus on is the awards that this man has gotten as a teacher and a coach. His obituary reads as, some of Mr. Riney's awards and recognition include 7 varsity letters in basketball and track with Loraz College, 5 times being included in the who's who of American teachers, twice being honored by the Western Illinois University as a highly motivational teacher, and placement in Newman's Athletic Hall of Fame. This man had a wife, kids, and grandchildren. Mr. Riney had a great impact on a lot of people. And I want to show you guys the kind of impact that he had on these people. And I want to tell you guys right now, the comments that I'm getting ready to read are only a small portion. There is hundreds of comments that I found online, not only on his obituary, but on a posting that I found when his health was declining.
Hold on, this is just fucking ridiculous because somebody keeps saying that they're Trisha in my chat and their name is Trisha Paytas. Because I used to call Trisha Paytas. I don't know why I used to say that. It's obviously a longtime viewer.
And all of the comments were so positive and uplifting. Okay. You can tell that this man has touched a lot of people's lives in a positive way. Prayers to Mr. Riney, one of the greatest teachers I've ever had. Multiple times throughout my senior year, after having a good basketball game, Mr. Riney would write me a card explaining how proud he was of me and how great I was doing.
Mama guy was saying hi. Her friend's visiting from Mexico or something. It's from like England. And
he'd keep them in the principal's office, and during his class they would call me down and give it to me so that I could come back to his class just happy and grateful for someone to notice my achievements. Amazing teacher and an even more amazing human. He will
Yeah, right. This man was so the point okay, that makes a lot of sense. The reason that she brings it all up is that if this man was so well received in the community, then this stuff would have been like breaking news, especially in a small community of people. That makes a lot of sense. That's a good point. It's a good point.
be missed. Prayers your way. Please tell him that his book was amazing. I loved reading about his life and the famous people that he has met, played against, and fought while he was in service. You have made a huge impact on many lives. Mr. Riney, you were one of my favorite teachers. I learned so much from you. And
Dude, could you fucking imagine, like, serving your country in Vietnam? You don't have to think that the war was justified to understand that he was still a good person, right? You fucking fighting for your country in a war. You come home. You're like, I want to be a fucking teacher. And I want to help kids. I want to educate children. Then apparently this is the only teacher. This teacher was like nice to Trisha, even though like other, I don't know, he didn't like other people probably because he felt bad for her. Right? Remember that she was like, oh, I think they were referring to this teacher. Maybe I'm wrong, but I believe that Trisha had mentioned that the teacher was mean to other students or something, but really liked her, which signals to me that she was such a loser that he was like, I'm going to be nice to you. And then she lies about how he molested her. Bro, fucking... There's things I want to say about Trisha that I would get banned on YouTube for, but I'm just getting close to saying them. I'm getting close to saying them, Trish. You are a bad person. Let me just tell you, you are a fucking bad person. You should go off and live on an island, okay? You should do something like that. Because this is some fucked up shit, man.
your impact lasts still today as I continue to love learning. Prayers for you. And here are several more if you want to pause to read, but like I said, this is only a small portion of the nice things that were said about this man. There are hundreds of comments about Mr. Riney. And the last thing I want to show you...
I don't know how I hate her more every day. It's impossible. It's impossible. I see something, I'm like, wow, Trisha's a worthless fucking piece of shit. Then somehow I see more stuff.
You guys, before we move on to the next thing, is a comment thread that I found on the TikTok that Trisha originally posted, and somebody replied with Mr. Riney, Charlie Riney, the high school teacher, and then one of his students replied with, no, he was one of my high school teachers, a great man, Vietnam War vet with a Bronze Star, all around lovely teacher person. And then the other person replied with, I can't find any charges at all. He was last teaching in 2016, got ill, and died in 2019. She should not say he was arrested. And then the other person replied back with, my class threw him a retirement party. I cried when he passed. He was beloved at our school. I never heard a bad word about him. So confusing to me. This man was so well respected by so many people. So for Trisha to make such horrible accusations at such a well respected man in the Byron, Illinois area, it just makes me so sick to my stomach. There is no way this man was doing what she claimed. He would have been caught. And a man like Mr. Riney would have shocked this town. And you better believe it would have been all over the news and articles would be posted everywhere about this because it would have been a shocking story. Now, one thing that's really interesting, since I came out with episode 1 on this series, Trisha has been talking a lot about her childhood. In fact, I did a live stream specifically talking about Mr. Riney. And a few days after that, Trisha uploaded a podcast episode talking about Mr. Riney as well. And once again, she changed details of the story. Check it out.
But with the teacher who he abused me when I was in the 6th grade, he ended up going to prison for CP on his computer and ended up dying. And so you're just kind of like, okay, well, he did get his. But at the time when I had turned him in or talked about it, I was told, like, I had to literally like switch classes because I was told that like I lie. And even thinking about that, like,
bro, I wonder if she actually tried to make up this story, and they switched classes because she was lying. I wonder if that's the only true part, is that they were like, "Wow, you're lying. We're gonna switch your class." I wouldn't doubt that.
I think as like a child, and I think through this, I'm like, was I a compulsive liar, or do people just not believe stories that to me seemed extreme? They did see, like, look.
You know what's crazy? Check this out. Watch this. When you watch Trisha Paytas like this, it's so much better. I have to go back and rewatch it because for that joke, but
extreme. They did see, like, looking back seem extreme, but the more I hear from other people, I'm like, no, this is actually kind of common.
Once again, she claims he was arrested for CP at school. Again, Mr. Riney has a clean record. Nothing like this has ever happened. And again, a change in the story. She spoke up, but was called a liar by the principal. Now, switching classes lines up with the very first TikTok she posted, but that time she said it was reported by the students. None of it makes any sense, you guys. But let's take this a step further, okay? Trisha claims that 3 separate incidents incidents happened with 3 separate teachers when she was in Byron. According to the TikTok that she posted back in March, she specifically said in that TikTok that it happened in the school she grew up in. Let me give you some background information on the town of Byron, Illinois. I looked up the crime rate of Byron, Illinois, and Byron is one of the safest towns to live in. In fact, Byron has an
not with Trisha living there, I'll tell you that much.
A+ crime rate and is safer than 78% of the cities in the USA, which means it's a pretty fucking safe town. In Byron, you have a 1 in 1,196 chance of becoming a victim of a violent crime. So statistically, I can see something like this happening one time to someone in a town like Byron, but 3 separate times by 3 different teachers to the same victim, it just seems impossible.
Well, you don't understand, Miss Serious. See, apparently there is a deep-seated... See, it sounds like Trisha read like one of those teen feel-good drama or novel, not feel-good, like teen novels like The Hunger Games, and decided that there was some kind of deep-seated conspiracy in her town of like sexual predatorization that's covered up by the principal. And all the children are getting attacked by the evil principals, and I'm going to grow up and I'm going to save them all. You know what I mean? Like that's the vibes I'm getting.
To me, especially because there is no trace of any essay by a teacher in the town of Byron. When stuff like this happens in a town like Byron, Illinois, the media would be all over it. Just to compare things, I live in a town that also has an A+ crime rate, but Byron is ranked 4% higher than my town when I looked it up to compare. This is just something you guys are going to have to trust me on. If you want to believe me, you can. If you don't, I totally understand, because I'm not going to put where I live on the screen. But if you call the cops on the smallest thing in my town, they send the whole police force, because that's how bored the cops are in my town, because there's very little crime. And it is very rare if a hardcore crime happens in my town. Like I said before, I could believe one time this happening to Trisha, because in my school growing up, there was a teacher sleeping with a student. This happened around 1998 in my town, and before it got back to the principal, there were rumors that went on for months that this teacher was hooking up with the student. Well, the guy that was sleeping with this teacher, one of his friends ended up telling the principal, and once the principal found out about that teacher, she was put on suspension while the school investigated it, and it didn't take long after that the police got involved and she was put in jail. We were all over the news, you guys. It was everywhere because it was shocking, and ever since that one incident in my town has happened, there hasn't been another one since, and that has been 20+ years, you guys. So when you compare it to a town like Byron, Illinois, I just don't see how it's possible, because Byron is safer. So statistically, it just doesn't make any sense with what Trisha is saying at all. Look,
that would be the talk of the town. That person would be like socially lampooned. Is that the right word?
There's too many things that don't make sense with this situation. I understand the mentality of the internet is to believe all victims, but sometimes people lie about this sort of thing. And that is one reason why it's so hard for victims to come forward and to be believed. On one hand, we got this well-respected teacher that was a war vet, that earned a Bronze Star, that earned multiple teaching awards, and has an entire community of people that have nothing but the nicest things to say about him as a teacher. And then on the other hand, we have Trisha Paytas, a person that is known for lying, a person that lied about their childhood, saying that they were never bullied in school, and that it was actually that they were being overly sexualized by teachers in school, and that was the main problem growing up. The thing about it is, you can be bullied and still go through trauma. So why would Trisha lie about the bullying if she was being honest about all of this? And they have stated multiple times in the past that nothing illegal ever happened.
Because she wants to ride the social narratives. That's why, right? So if the social narrative was fat people keep getting bullied in school, she would be the fat kid getting bullied in school. And actually, that would make the most sense. But the narrative right now is girls being invalidated for saying that they've been molested or sexually assaulted, and being overly sexualized as children. You can apply those two things, boom, you got this bullshit ass fucking narrative. In fact, you might even be able to make the argument that the only reason that she said that she was bullied for being fat, even though she wasn't that fat back in the day, is possibly because the narrative back then used to be fat people got unnecessarily and relentlessly bullied. Just saying. Although she does seem to be more honest back then, so it's probably not true. I'm just saying, bro.
happened with any teachers growing up at their school. They have lied about so much, you guys, and I could list everything, and we could be here all day. But at what cost are we going to keep believing everything that comes out of her mouth? A teacher that can't defend himself, a teacher that was well loved, a teacher
That's true. I didn't even think of it like that. The teacher can't defend himself. What the fuck's the teacher gonna do? Rise from the grave and say, Trisha, what the fuck? I'm surprised. Like the family's not coming forward if they even have seen it, and that's probably because they don't think that it will be a social win for them. Be like, oh, now our whole family has to be dragged through the fucking mud again just to defend ourselves. And then Trisha's worthless, toxic fucking audience that'll believe anything she says will just make it worse.
That was never arrested, that had a perfect reputation in the community. What about the victims of Trisha Paytas? When are we going to start taking them more seriously? Post
Trisha something disorder. What's the S stand for? Why is that?
Also, if you're a fan of Trisha, making excuse after excuse,
post-traumatic stress, post Trisha stress disorder, PTSD. That's what I got.
Her, it's not helping her. I believe this person needs serious help, and the more people feed into their lies and delusions, the more dangerous she is going to get, and there will be a lot more people that are going to be hurt in the process. But we're not done yet with this situation. I want to show you guys everything I got, because I'm going to cover every single aspect of this and show you everything. Before I get into all the clips, I know some people are going to be like, wow, you're really picking apart Trisha's stories.
Bro, I love it. I'm here for it. Pick it apart more.
I completely understand where you're coming from, and I normally would not do this, but this is a unique situation. We have a teacher whose outstanding reputation has been severely damaged because Trisha blasted his name to millions of people.
Yeah, and we have to understand, this is maybe this is just more from the perspective of a man, is that when somebody's not a child molester, that is a very serious claim that will incite a lot of men to risk their entire lives and livelihood to harm that person. Like, it's a very socially loaded thing. Like, a lot of people in society hate child molesters. The worst thing that you could be. A lot of people look at child molestation as worse than murder. And so you're labeling somebody worse than a murderer to the minds of a lot of people is so disgusting and irresponsible. It's just fucking pathetic.
And we also have schools' reputations that have been completely smeared online. And I'm sorry, none of the recent stories from Trisha make any sense with each other.
Tits out of her. Sorry, we have to bring these back. You gotta take your fake tits. We gotta, we're repoing everything.
Many contradictions, because this isn't right. Also, just to remind everyone again, Trisha has said multiple times in the past that nothing illegal ever happened with their teachers. So please, also keep that in mind. If you have made it this far, just please watch everything together and look at this segment with an open mind.
I'm here for it, girl.
So in this TikTok we watched earlier, Trisha specifically states that there were 3 separate incidents with 3 separate teachers at their school growing up. Trisha specifically says it happened in the school. I am going to play this part one more time because it's so specific. So just listen to what she has to say.
I was silenced for so long at my school growing up. I had 3 different incidences with 3 different teachers in regards to SA, R word, and M word. It happened in the school.
So keep both of those things in the back of your mind, that it was 3 teachers and it happened in the school that Trisha grew up in, which would be Byron. Also, recently on August 17th on Trisha's new podcast, they also confirmed once again that it was 3 separate teachers. Check it out.
I don't remember high school really. I remember the important.
It's interesting because I don't remember. Nobody remembers fucking high school.
Okay, we switched high schools. I switched 4 times. I went to California. I went to private school. I switched a lot in high school. No pun intended. I remember, what
was the pun? You fucking idiot.
Events. I remember.
Was that switching is usually like a sexual term when you switch from dom to sub or vice versa. So what it sounds like to me is this absolute fucking idiot. The first thing she thought when she was talking, she's talking about how she was molested 3 times. And then she's in her head, she's thinking about sex. No pun intended. Is this the time for puns when you're having a serious conversation? I just feel like, I know I'm nitpicking, but it's, why I'm nitpicking. We've all watched the hour and such of this video so far.
Sleeping with teachers. Okay, on this note, let me clarify this. Because a lot of people are like, wow, again, this is that the disbelief, the compulsive liar. People just can't believe, wow, 3 different teachers had sex with you. It's like, yeah.
I'm gonna nitpick. Also, I've never heard a sexual assault survivor call it sex. You think she's talking about DID? Okay, my bad. But I mean, you never know. But that's fair. That's fair. Okay, all right. My bad, if that's what she was talking about.
Yeah. As difficult as it may be for some people to believe, and in my head, it's not difficult at all. Like I think.
Wow, that's a good. Well, I know it's hard for other people to believe, but I believe it. Wow, Trisha. The most profound point you've ever made.
Yeah, I thought it was normal. I saw it in movies. I was like, yeah, I will do this too.
Yeah, she's just waiting for 2 more teachers from her school to die and then name them. Fucking honestly, dude.
So as we go through the different clips, count the different stories. We already know one of the 3 teachers is Mr. Riney. So that leaves 2 teachers that we don't know the names of. Recently, Trisha uploaded a TikTok on August 16th.
Delete that comment, my man.
Where they specifically said that they talked about their story on Keemstar's podcast, Mom's Basement, of an incident that happened when they were only 6 years old. In this TikTok, Trisha specifically says that she has never told anyone of this story until the podcast. Check it out.
This is why people shouldn't talk until they hear the podcast, because they sound absolutely stupid. I went on and shared my own R-word story that I've never shared with anyone else to drive a point across about it. I was super vulnerable. I was super embarrassed. Once it's out there, I'm going to be judged. I'm going to be judged forever for not saying something sooner, for not talking about it sooner, for doing it, for participating in it, for liking it. I shared my own story of SA&R, which I have never shared with anyone else. And it was super hard because that's not a setting that I was super comfortable in necessarily.
Okay, so it sounds like she's never told her parents about this. She's never told the public about this. She's never told anybody about this story, okay? So now let's listen to the story that she told on Mom's Basement. Check it out.
Yeah, but I don't think you know you're a victim. Like, my teacher was having sex with me when I was 6 years old, and I didn't think anything was wrong with it. And up until, like, I still don't think, like, sometimes I, like...
6? She's saying 6 years old? Did we hear that one? How many fucking allegations
So
are there?
16.
6.
Oh, that's awful.
And so I didn't know. Yeah, but like for me, I was like, oh, you know, it was like attention from like an older guy. Like I thought it was kind of cool. And then you realize like, oh, that's like some fucked up shit.
Is that, this is a genuine question to anybody who's ever, this is horrible, but I guess been molested as a 6-year-old or even like 7 or 8. Is that a perspective that you would have? I understand that as so I understand that when like women get a little, or girls, they get older, like in their 14s, 15s, 16s, that they might find older men more attractive because they think that those older men's like, oh, they find me attractive. They think it's an older guy. I can't believe he's giving me attention, blah, 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 blah. That doesn't justify the older man effectively molesting them. But you get my point. It's common for some younger women to want to attract older men. I get that. But do you get that feeling at 6 years old? I feel like you're not even, that's not a thought at that point. I'm just asking that question. It feels really off. It feels like she just has no concept of the fucking world. And so she's like going as young as possible and adding like something that is a feeling of somebody older. I don't know. Maybe, I feel like you can't, but I could be wrong. I feel like you're not that
like,
young.
If you would have asked me, like, as a teenager, I was like, no, super cool. Like, actually, like, I didn't know it was sex at the time, right? You didn't know it was sex at the time. But then I was just like, oh, no, that was, like, I liked it, you know, whatever. And it's like, but a lesser version of that is when I was in David's vlogs.
First off, yes.
Because I feel like a child at, like, 6 years old would find it really uncomfortable and inappropriate to be touched like that. Like, I don't think that, and I could be wrong. I just don't think that a child of that age experiences that perspective. I think that more than anything else, the perspective is I didn't know what was happening and it made me really uncomfortable. Like I just didn't get it. But she's trying to make this argument that when she was 6, she was like engaged and thought it was okay and was like actively into it. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense.
Is the full story. I listened to the whole podcast, and that was the only time they brought up the story.
I feel bad for you. That podcast was awful. I listened to the whole thing too. It's fucking dog shit.
Secondly, a lot of the stories that Trisha has told usually is brought up when they're talking about David Dobrik. Most of the clips that we're getting ready to watch is when the David story was popping online.
Very interesting point that she always thought about it when David Dobrik was the topic of conversation. Because I don't remember the names. I think it was Seth, the black kid, right? The argument said he was sexually assaulted. He wasn't. I'm just going to be honest with you. I believe that he was violated, probably sexually violated for sure. But, you know, I think that there's a profound difference between kissing what you think is a girl and then it turns out to be a guy versus having yourself like forcefully taken from you. I think that they're very different things. We don't have to agree on that. It's still very wrong. But Trish is trying to equate it to some kind of sexual assault to deplatform David Dobrik as much as possible. And so it sounds like she's inventing, and maybe she does have trauma, but she's such a fucking bullshit liar that it's hard to believe what she's saying. It sounds like she's inventing a trauma for herself so she can identify with the situation, and she gets to basically say that it's she gets to have some kind of moral authority on the situation because she identifies with sexual assault. Right? And the reason why I'm apprehensive about believing her is because these seem to be like completely fabricated, nonsensical bullshit. If she had an assault, an actual like assault situation, I would feel like, why wouldn't you call on to that situation? Why do you need to make up a new one? Unless she has so much trauma associated with the one she won't talk about, which there's one when she was like 17 potentially, right? With her like stepdad or whatever, that she doesn't want to talk about that one. So she makes up new ones.
Lastly, Trisha saying she has never talked about this story before is really fucking confusing to me because either there were multiple assaults when they were 6 or they have a really bad memory because Trisha has brought up the 6-year-old story online a lot. But here's the thing about it. The story changes every time it's told. Now I'm going to play a bunch of clips for you guys about this story. I'm trying to play them in an order that is not confusing to you guys because it does get really confusing since the story does change a lot. So on February 16th, 2021, Trisha brought up the story during a rant about AB and the H3 podcast when the David Dobrik stuff was just starting. This was right after AB defended the Vlog Squad, and Trisha brings up this 6-year-old story to prove a point that her whole life nobody has believed her. Check it out.
So, from a very young age, people not believing me, people telling me from a young age, from 6 years old, someone saying that I provoked a sexual situation at 6 years old. And people believing that. Well, she did this. She said she liked this movie, so this is why I did this. And people are like, oh, well, okay, that makes sense. Well, you know, Trish, at 6 years old, she watched Taxi Driver and described this explicit scene to me between a 13-year-old hooker and a grown man. So, like, that's why it happened. And a judge being like, yeah, actually, that makes sense. You're right. So, okay, Trish, did you say that? Yeah, I did say that. Okay, so that you deserve this. Same thing as a fucking teenager. Well, she wore this, you know, and she came into my classroom and locked the door. So, like, it's okay. Or that's why I did it. That's why I was provoked. She was a temptress. Just like the fucking David. Trisha did this, and she flirted with David, and so therefore all the time she said she was uncomfortable and didn't consent and didn't want to vlog. That's okay.
So there are a few things I want to point out with this. One, Trish said they went to court over this, and the judge actually blamed a 6-year-old child in court and ruled in the favor of the teacher, which seems so unrealistic to me.
Yeah, it does.
I get courts rule in favor of predators all the time, but for a judge to openly say, hey, it's a 6-year-old's fault, that judge would have been fired.
Yeah, that doesn't even make sense. Because I've known people who have gone into court when they were young, and they wouldn't tell the 6-year-old, you're wrong and you're lying. That doesn't even make fucking sense. What they would say, they might not believe them, but you wouldn't tell a fucking 6-year-old that they're lying. It just doesn't make sense.
Secondly, Trisha claims in
you'd have to make so many logical concessions for you to believe what she's saying.
This video that it was the movie Taxi Driver. And side note, how is a 6-year-old watching a movie like Taxi Driver? That just doesn't make any sense to me. That movie's a pretty bad movie for a 6-year-old to be
well, her parents are horrible dog shit, so I don't doubt it.
Watching. Then on February 13th, Trisha brings this up again. She doesn't state the age she was, but she does confirm that it was Taxi Driver. And then she names another incident with a separate teacher that was when Trisha was older, and says that a Jerry Lee Lewis movie was the reason for Trisha getting assaulted by a separate teacher. Check it out.
Wait, so in occasions she blames a movie? What
it stems from me being a little girl and having, you know, sexual assault at my school and stuff like that. It was and being told from a young age, like, I'm like, oh, well, she wanted it and she did this and she dresses this way and she talks about this. I remember my teacher put blame on me because I talked about how much I loved the movie Taxi Driver, which was about, you know, Jodie Foster being 13 and like seducing Robert De Niro and Harvey Keitel and stuff. And like, I talked about that movie so much, and I idolized and idealized. I remember opening up to this, a separate teacher that I had an incident with about the Jerry Lee Lewis movie, and Winona Ryder was 13 years old, or you know, she was playing a 13-year-old having sex with her 21-year-old cousin. I said, I hope that like.
What makes more sense is she watched these movies and she decided to take on the traumas of the children in the movies, right? So she constantly watches some media or reads something and goes, that's me. That makes more sense. Oh, that was me. I was 13 and fucked up. You understand?
When I was 12 at the time, and I was like, I hope when I'm 13, I hope I can have sex with somebody and stuff like that. And then, you know, so when they got confronted about it, their argument was like, well, she said she like wanted to like experience sex before she was 13, and then it was totally on me. And it's like, so.
But this doesn't even make sense. What? Two separate teachers. You told two teachers two different movies that you liked that would involve a 13-year-old having sex with like a grown adult, and then they both said to you that it's your fault for idolizing this movie. I'm confused. What I also think is interesting, though, is the narrative from what she said about the 6-year-old story was that she liked it. So in these narratives, in order for them to blame her, she would have to not like it after they had sex or molested. I'm just trying to put this fucking absolute asinine story together.
So I have that in my head that everything's totally on me. The best is, oh my God, you're so obsessed with them. Like, just get over them. And like...
Because hasn't she talked before about how she like liked older men at inappropriate ages? That doesn't make it her fault if she was assaulted. But if they felt the need to blame her for something, that means that she would have not liked it immediately. I'm so fucking confused.
Just like the trauma I experienced from ages 6 to 12, I still check up on that guy that assaulted me. And I always will follow what he does because it's just like this, I don't know how to describe it. It's this grasp these people have on me.
So this is where things start getting really confusing. So they claim at age 12, a separate teacher assaulted her for another movie that they claimed that they liked. But I thought the incident at 12 years old was the teacher that did things during Heads Up 7-Up. And what are the odds that two separate teachers would do something to somebody because they said they liked a certain movie?
Yeah, the exact same thing.
And then she...
Like, were they twins?
Contradicts herself and says that she still checks up on the guy that did things to her from the ages of 6 to 12, acting like it was only one teacher. But I thought the taxi driver incident you went to court for. Even if they let the teacher go, wouldn't your mom make sure you were never around that teacher again? Like, so much of this is so confusing. So the other thing about this whole thing is that Trisha specifically said the movie was Taxi Driver, but on March 2nd in a Frenemies episode, Trisha completely contradicts herself and she says that the movie is actually Cape Fear, not Taxi Driver. Check it out.
Second time that happened, it was a teacher and another teacher, a different teacher, and he's like, well, she told me she liked the movie Taxi Driver, so like, or Cape Fear, I'm sorry, Cape Fear. He's like, so I just put my thumb in her mouth to suck it.
Wait, what? So wait, so she even referenced Taxi Driver. So is this a different claim? Or did she fuck up her own story? I feel like somebody with this much trauma, with like being sexually assaulted, you would remember every detail. It's actually one of the most horrible parts about being assaulted, is remembering every singular aspect of it. It's something that you can't forget. And it's like, but you seem to have forgotten the movie. Like that individual criticism would be nothing by itself, but we're up to like so many inconsistencies. It just doesn't make sense.
Anyways, it's a lot, but...
And that's not all. On February 11th, she uploaded a video talking about this again, and she claimed that she didn't speak up for 15 years about the incident when she was 6 years old, even though she has previously stated that the incident happened and she went to court for it when she was 6 years old.
And you go through it, let's say you endure it for years. I didn't say anything until 15 years after I was molested as like a 6-year-old. Does that mean that, like... Well, she didn't talk about it for 15 years, so it didn't.
Yeah, it seems like she's running another social narrative. So it is very common for rape apologists to use this argument. Well, you didn't report it,
it's a brain dead argument that shows that you don't have like an understanding of the mental perspective of people who were assaulted and all the conditions around it that would make you apprehensive about reporting it. The possibility of not being believed, getting harmed further or again. So yeah, so now she's wrapping that into that and saying like, oh, people wouldn't believe me. You know, it
didn't happen. She didn't speak up, so obviously it wasn't that big of a deal. Fuck you, AB.
And then going back to the original TikTok of her saying Keemstar's podcast is the first time
did he say that?
Spoke to anyone about this incident. She made it sound like she hasn't talked to her therapist or her parents about it. But on March 4th, she claims that for years she told therapists and her parents that she was fine.
I was molested at 6 years old by a teacher for years, and and I told my therapist for years that I was okay with it, even at the age of 12. Having sex with the teacher, and I was like, but I thought it was cool. I thought I was fine with it, so that makes it okay.
Wait, that doesn't make any sense though. So wait, hold on. Why would the teacher blame her? Wait, this doesn't make sense. Okay. I was saying this before. I'm going to elaborate. So her claim was that she was having a sex with a teacher for years, and the teacher blamed it for liking a movie, Taxi Driver, but then Cape Fear or something afterwards. But why would the teacher feel the need to blame a movie or you liking a movie? Why would the teacher feel the need to blame the situation on you if he had no reason to blame? Right? So it seems like you liked it. You're not consenting, but you're saying that you liked it. So the teacher could engage in it without making you feel bad? So why would he feel the need to shame you and say, well, it's your fault? Why would he need to put the blame onto you if you liked it? Also, I feel like a 6-year-old doesn't like sex or molestation. I just don't. I feel like children would have like some kind of deep-seated trauma. I don't know. This is just ridiculous.
I said I was okay so many times to my parents, my family, to even my therapist. I was like, it was fine, actually. I liked it.
But didn't her parents not know about the allegations? Didn't we cover that before? The parents didn't know about the allegations? And they're learning a lot of new stuff. So for her to say that, doesn't that invalidate? Isn't that like another lie?
I was cool. I was the teacher's favorite. I liked older men. I was attracted to it. I wanted it. It was very Cape Fear, you know? And like in my head, I really did think I wanted it at the time. But like looking back, I was like, oh my God, that like fucked me up.
All right, you guys, I got a couple.
And she didn't look back until just now or 21 or whatever age she was. So there was never her guilting the teacher. I don't know.
More to show you, and then we'll be done. On Dr. Drew's live stream, Trisha talks about this incident again when she was only 6 years old, but only this time she claims that it was at a summer camp that her dad put her in, not at her school in Byron. Check it out.
What can you talk about what happened in childhood that was so murky?
You know, there was a lot of like, there was a lot of stuff with like older guys that like I thought was like normal, and I still try and process it, like, you know, with like the touching of my boobs or talking about my boobs, you know, like hugging from behind and like stuff like this, like, you know. But was it okay? You know, obviously now I know it's not.
How old were you, and how old were the guys?
The first memory I have was a summer camp when I was like 6 years old, and I remember like
6 years
like,
old.
I'm gonna like. Yeah, and that was like, this is something that like I
Wait, yeah, so she said it was at a school with a teacher at a school. What the fuck? Dude, Trisha. You're such an evil person, bro. I can't, dude. You're such a dumb, worthless, fucking bad person, dude. Oh my God. This is so disgusting. Do you know how many survivors, men, women, whatever identity you have, are invalidated by your just spewing of nonsense? Jesus Christ. You blame everything on these traumas that clearly don't exist. That's just my perspective. Clearly don't exist. And it's so invalidating to people who carry this trauma with them every day. At this point, I don't think Trisha has any trauma whatsoever. I think that she's an entitled, spoiled little fucking kid who grew up with worthless dog shit fucking parents, and her worst trauma is that they didn't truly love her enough to put any type of regulation in her life and just gave her what she wanted because they were tired of dealing with her because she's such a shit fucking person. You're such a bad person, dude. Fuck.
Yeah, it's a lot because I remember it, like, again, I remember it, but then it's like, I don't remember, like, leading up to it because this was, like, a summer camp, and, you know, I just remember, like, all the details.
Isn't it a thing that sometimes victims lose details of their trauma? Maybe. I feel like this isn't a minor detail. She forgot the place that it happened. Come on.
That's an excuse. There's so many concessions need to be made to make her. We have to make so many concessions to her in order to validate what she's talking about. I really just don't believe that. Like, maybe, right? If this was the only issue that she ever had, inconsistency was where it happened, maybe. But it's a constant inconsistency.
But I don't remember, going to my therapist. Like, is it penetration? Is it just, outside stuff? Like, it's all so foggy to me. Like, that part doesn't feel, and I don't know. It's just, there's a lot that I've never talked about, even to like my therapist. And it's like, I'm finally talking about it, but it's so hard because I don't remember so much of it. And I don't know.
Now, going back to the wrestling video, Trisha specifically said the only way the SA stopped as a kid was that they gained weight. And in the clip, Trisha specifically says that she went to her dad's for the summer and came back, and her abuser said that she had gained too much weight. And this was at the age of 10. Check it out.
It's another detail.
Like, the only way the molestation stopped when I was a kid was when I started gaining weight. And, I remember I went away for the summer with my dad, and I came back to school, and that same person, my abuser, was like, you got too fat. And I was 10.
So based on this clip with the doctor...
Wait, but didn't she say she was molested from 6 to 12? So doesn't that invalidate it? By the same person? Because they stopped when they were 10.
Through episode, that would mean Trisha was getting abused in Byron and when she would go visit her dad when she had to go to summer camp. And just a side note, Trisha never mentioned a summer camp in her book. You would think if her dad was sending her to camp every summer, like she said in the Dr. Drew Live, that it would have been mentioned in her book. Her father had his kids with him, not shipped off to summer camp, and that's according to Trisha's book. Also, one other thing she mentioned in this wrestling video was she claimed that her neighbors were also essaying her. Check it out.
I've been sexualized from 6 years old. From 6. From being called out for being a distraction by teachers to being molested by my neighbors, by people in power, people in authority.
Okay, so let's summarize all this. First, the teachers. According to Trisha, there were 3 teachers and all incidents happened at their school. 1 is the Riney allegations. 2 is the 6-year-old story with the movie reference. And I'm assuming possibly there was another 6-year-old incident since she said that she never talked about it when she went on mom's basement. So maybe there was another one in there somewhere. So I guess we will say that one is number 3. Then Trisha also stated there was another teacher at the age of 12 or 13 that also did something to her because of a different movie that wasn't Taxi Driver or Cape Fear. Or that could be another version of the Riney story, who knows, but I'm going to call that number 4 since it seems like a totally different story. Then also according to Trisha, they also got assaulted at the age of 6 in a camp in California, and they were also assaulted by their neighbors at an unknown age. So let's just say all of this is true, okay? Then why on Frenemies did they say in 2005 that was the worst year of their life? They were around the age of 17 in 2005. The other thing is, why did they say their teachers were coming to their house when they originally said it all happened at the school? Here's the clip I'm talking about for context. Check it out.
Pretty sure I was getting an R word by my teachers, and the principal didn't believe me, and I had to endure it every
gotta
single
love
day.
what a dumbass he is. He's like, you were bullied, you piece of shit. You had it coming.
I had to move school 4 times because teachers were being inappropriate, so thank you for that. And also just like,
well, the only
myself in 2005. That's why my band is 2005, because it was the most trauma of my life, because teachers wouldn't leave me alone and they come to my house and just R-word me.
That's one clip that accidentally got cut out of episode 1. Trisha specifically says they moved schools 4 times because of teachers essaying them, and Trisha moved schools.
But didn't she say because she was getting bullied?
In high school. So there is another discrepancy.
Oh, interesting. There's another discrepancy. She also said she get moved for being bullied.
And Trisha...
Ethan ate it up because he's kind of fucking stupid.
Specifically said in her...
Well, in Ethan's defense, he believed her because usually you believe survivors of trauma. Because what kind of a worthless, dog shit, asshole, piece of shit, cretin scum fuck would ever lie about being molested? You know what I mean? So why would you not believe it? You know? You'd have to be a real just... next level, incredible, just absolutely insane, dumb fuck asshole to do that. You know what I mean?
Older YouTube videos, if you watched episode 1, that they switched 4 high schools because of bullying. So you guys, point blank period, none of these stories add up with each other. Each story has changed every time they spoke on it. They have specifically stated in the past that nothing ever happened with their teachers. Nothing illegal ever happened with them. And they are accusing people
and under the context, no, so she didn't just say that nothing happened. She said nothing happened under the context that she talked about how she would sexualize herself for attention
because nobody like thought she was attractive or something along those lines. And then she said the teachers would give her additional attention, which my speculation is because she was such a loser. Sorry, because she was just a kid at this point, but she was such a loser that they were like nicer to her. And she associated the niceness with sexualizing herself, but it was really because she was a loser. And she was like, I was very careful to say like nobody touched me or anything. That was just like a me thing. Like I would dress provocatively for the attention.
Of being a P word that have no record of any inappropriate conduct. Also, don't you guys find it odd that the only teacher that Trisha called out by name is dead and can't defend himself? Why not call out the other teachers? It doesn't make any sense to me. It
doesn't make any sense because we're at a point now where usually, so I totally understand the argument of I don't want to name the person I could get hurt. But they're far from that. She lives in fucking California. She has millions of dollars. She could never get hurt by somebody in like a fucking hick state. I'm assuming it's sorry for anybody who lives there. There's no threat or fear of any retaliation or backlash. She's far removed from them. Look at this screen pause. Look at the fucking Trisha. So why only name the one that can't defend themselves? You could easily name all of them, but she's not because she doesn't want them to defend themselves. I'm not okay. Somebody got offended because I said that and their teachers were friends. Okay, I'm not saying that the teachers were only friends with her because I'm not saying that all teachers are only friends with students because they're dumb or whatever. I was just making a point about how Trisha's a loser, and they probably felt bad for her, and that's why they gave her additional attention.
Whatsoever. This is pretty much all of the clips that I could find of Trisha talking about these different incidents. So use your own judgment on each story. Like I said before, maybe one story is true, but I find it impossible for this much stuff to happen to the same victim from multiple different abusers, especially because the area they lived in was so safe. And where was Trisha's mom during all of this time and everything else? It just doesn't make any sense to me. It sucks I had to do it this way, but the Riney story has been eating me alive for so long. In my gut, I feel he is innocent, and in trying to prove his innocence, it was very important to show you all of the contradictions. I am sure I'm gonna have people calling me different names like they are already on Reddit, and that is something I'm just gonna have to accept. Even with all this evidence, there are people that are still gonna believe.
Fuck those people. Those people on Reddit they're stupid. I spelled mysterious to you wrong. I wish I could find those Reddit posts.
Trisha, and just know if you keep making excuses for her, you're not helping her at all. I want to play one more clip before I go. Maybe Trisha truly doesn't know what reality is. Maybe this is something that she truly can't help. Check out this clip and you'll see what I'm talking about.
I did it for my own self. I'm someone who suffers from delusions and not knowing what reality is. And I wanted to hear back everything because people constantly tell me what I say, and I want to hear it back for myself.
If Trisha truly suffers from delusions and not knowing what reality is, then how can we trust any of these stories are even true? I personally believe Trish knows what she is lying about, but maybe I'm wrong. And this could be a reason for her telling these stories. Like I said before, what about the victims of Trisha? When are we going to start taking them more seriously? I still believe Trisha is a victim. I will never deny the trauma that I feel is real. And
I can't believe she's a victim. I genuinely feel like somebody who's experienced like a very heavy trauma in their life wouldn't be so like reckless about weaponizing the experiences of other people. There's no way that somebody that was abused would feel comfortable saying that they like pulling on someone else's trauma. There's just no way. I just don't believe it. And maybe I'm wrong, but she's such a bad person. And I don't think that she deserves the benefit of the doubt. And it's like a boy who cried wolf scenario. And I'm going to be unapologetic about that because this is a very unique scenario. You guys know on this channel we talk a lot about sexual assault and different things like that. And we never invalidate anybody. We have serious conversations, and I'm very careful to word things specifically to not be invalidating or to create or layer additional traumas. But Trisha is such a bad person. She's such a bad person.
trauma that I feel has affected her is her mom's boyfriend, Tiger. Trisha,
Maybe.
if you are watching this video, it's not too late to tell the truth. More people will respect you for coming
That's true.
clean
I
and telling
even said that before.
the truth versus if you keep dragging this teacher's name through the mud. Trisha, I think you need serious help with the lies that you tell the public. I really hope that you get the help that you need and work through whatever it is you need to in order to be more honest and not lie. I hope you start making real amends with the people that you have hurt, and I'm not just talking about what I spoke on in this video. I hope you make amends with everybody that you have hurt with the lies that you have told. So anyways, you guys, that's the end of today's video. I know this was a really long one. If you made it through, that's absolutely amazing. And before I go, I want to take a quick second to thank all my members, and I apologize if I pronounce any of your names wrong. Thank you to Sarah, Lydia, Obscura, Sixty Girl, Anna Fox, Azaria, Life, Alabama Ya,
Pronounce this one.
Janora's, Labyrinth, Gerline, Shelby, Eloise, Evelyn, Anna, Ashley, Amy, Eve.
Oh, damn, she reads them all out. Well, good for you. I fucking don't care about my fans. Fuck all. I'm just kidding. Just kidding. I'm just kidding. I should do something like that at the end of my videos. Do like a Patreon. I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, once again, you know what's so funny? I watched the first one and I was blown the fuck away, and I was like, holy shit, that's incredible. And then Mysterious T said she's announced a second one. I was like, okay, cool. I'm sure it'll be good, but you know, I figured the sequel wouldn't have been as good as the original. Let me just tell you, bro, it definitely was. It was very in depth. It was incredible. It was incredible. It was a fucking incredible experience to watch that. I think Trisha is such a bad person. I feel like a lot of people, like Mysterious T, give her the benefit of the doubt in the sense it's like, I'm sure you have a trauma. Like, we want to believe she has a trauma because we don't want to be that person that invalidates her. But I just really feel like she doesn't deserve anything in life except for the worst things possible.